How's Grandpa anyway?
We good to go?
We
How's
are good to
Grandpa?
go. Hopefully everyone can hear us. Frida, can you hear us okay? Oh wait, I
Both of
gotta
them or just
ask
Max?
you to unmute. Hold on, Frida, sorry. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Frida. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Great. All right.
Good.
Good.
Alrighty, we'll call the meeting to order, unless you want a minute to get situated.
I'm good.
I'll review the agenda for additional removal or adjustments of any items.
Yes, we have one change to the consent agenda. Let me just pull this up here. That would be the 5A. We're gonna remove that. It's no longer on the agenda, the park use application.
Because they're not doing it or?
Not doing it,
Hmm.
yes, unfortunately.
That's too bad.
We're notified today.
Either that or they don't need it, which is then a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, so that's the only change.
Well, I probably figured everybody got their car washed this last week.
For the last week. Right.
Doesn't do a very good job.
Alright, that's it for,
That is it.
alright,
Thank you.
public forum. Opportunity for anybody not on the agenda to speak. I'm not gonna let you guys stay on the agenda anyway.
They are on the agenda.
Oh.
He is.
I know we are. I just giving him a hard time. Department head roundtable. I'm gonna start with all the guys in blue.
Okay, Bruce.
Thank you. Francis, Andrew, you want to stand over this one? I didn't realize so much. I was gonna be out of breath.
Just walking into the
Just walking over here?
Sorry.
We need to get that man an inhaler.
So we received a notice that one of our officers is going to be getting an award. So I wanted to read to you the email and then let you know who. So this came to myself and Officer Francis Smith from Kristen Chandler, who's the coordinator for Team 2 for the state. It says, Officer Smith, I am so pleased to let you know that you were nominated to receive the annual Team 2 Frank Silfies, I think that's how you pronounce his name, award for exhibiting excellent collaboration skills and responding to a mental health crisis. You were nominated by Jennifer Stefani of CSAC, which is Counseling Service of Addison County. The Team 2 steering committee met today and chose you out of a host of nominations. This is an annual award given to one police officer and one crisis worker in Vermont. Well, this year, the steering committee chose 2 officers and a crisis worker. You should be very proud that your work has been recognized as going above and beyond when it comes to responding to mental health calls. Given the size of Bristol PD relative to other departments in Addison County, this recognition speaks volumes about you and your collaboration with CSAC. Nicely done. They will be scheduling a future date for the presentation. So I just want to mention, as I catch my breath, am I talking to?
And can we clap now?
Over my 5 minutes, so I'm like rush through.
We'll give you
this.
7 today.
Yeah,
So you can sit.
extenuating circumstances, we'll give you an extra 2
So
minutes.
Francis, you're receiving this award is a testament to your approach to mental health calls for service, as well as the guidance and support you receive from Sergeant Graham. And more importantly, your empathetic and compassionate response to calls for service within our Bristol community has not gone unnoticed. It's a privilege and an honor to work with you. Congratulations on this well-deserved award, and I look forward to the presentation of this award to you in the near future.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Great.
No other updates you want to give us?
Frank Sobers is the one that I trained under for critical incident stress.
Great.
Nice job. Thank you, guys.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Good job to you all of you, yeah.
Put Bristol on that.
You wanna say anything? You wanna-
He will
start preparing.
My work speaks for itself.
There you
There you go. Hey.
Thank you, Francis.
Good one.
Congratulations.
Well, let's see you follow that, Eric.
See what I'm doing. Started, you might probably noticed, we started our street sweeping. The brooms broke.
You were sweeping so good. Which broom? The new. The.
So what happened?
So how far did you get?
That's a better one.
Yeah, what we got left to do is East Street, Main Street, and. Yes. What happened was this Thursday was one of the misty rainy days. So I sent the guy out sweeping, figured no dust. Whatever. Well, it ended up being that they had a shower come through just before lunch, made it a little bit too big. So it packed right into the hopper, and when it lift up, it would come out, so we shook it, and ended up bending one of the cylinders that raises the hopper. I called for the cylinder, and today, the guy that I talked to was there, another guy looked it up, said, "Ooh, we put the toilet." So I got to call, I got to talk to the guy tomorrow, see what's going on. I got other avenues, if this is gonna take too long to finish sweeping up. I already called the contractor, local one to come in and finish.
The room cylinder or just
The ring.
once it's the most, Maxine can make the room and
So I think for that, but right now with Munson, I set one up there to get done, that was on the map. And that was 3 weeks. And about 3 weeks for me to get to that. I haven't tried bending it. This is just a small one, extend it out.
I said, note to self, don't do that again.
Should have it come back. So we took the fire fronts out.
Just a thing?
Well, I filed 3 years ago on the 17th of May. Just in the upper, nothing down here, so. Trying to literally take them all off right now. So, but the rest of them are off, they're all pressure washed.
$5 minutes of sound.
No, we're good up there, it's good. So we're doing that, finishing up, how we had the truck forward. Every year that plow shakes itself out. We're logging it up again. Before we go up. We bought some Freightliner, went halfway through the winter, went it through, got parts ordered for that. The conveyor changes, and truck forward, through there, and the wheel can be that big, through it. So we're gonna have to cut at least a section out, build a new section back in.
He's full of good news.
Yeah, nice.
He's like talking to my
We're not gonna-
mechanic.
Yeah.
This is good stuff, and now the last one.
I have a question. I saw that you put out the little crosswalk things. Did you do one already at the creamy stand? So she said she's gonna put them up soon, so.
Yeah, so we put one at, let's see, Mountain Street, East Street, Church. One by Maple Street for the community there, Liberty Street, we got a crosswalk in the first street. North Street and Springs. Fitch. Somebody do it already?
Hit it.
No, just, yeah, I don't know if they hit it or did it turn out.
It's me.
Yeah.
Fire, Brett.
Hold on one sec, we're just gonna fix some technical issues.
We have technical issues.
Sound is muffled.
You, Ian, you sound better now. We didn't hear a word Eric said.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
okay. You didn't want to
just
hear
as
it
well.
anyway.
I'm not repeating it either, but I'll call you later if you want.
All right, hopefully that should be better now.
Can you hear me okay?
You sound very good. Okay.
You're up.
Yeah, you're up for department head round table.
You can hear me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm still struggling to hear you all, so I'll just talk since you said you can hear me. Just a couple of quick updates. First, congratulations to Officer Smith. I think that's amazing. Certainly speaks to his character. So congratulations, Officer Smith, Francis. This Wednesday night is the first inaugural training utilizing the new Conex box training structure at the fire station. We're extremely excited about that. It's not 100% complete yet. I don't think it'll ever be 100% complete because we're always going to want to do something different. But the next big initiative over there is to build the roof prop. The materials have been delivered, and our resident carpenter, Mr. Terry Farr, has volunteered to build that. So we're extremely excited about that. But big shout out to Chris Purley, Caleb Rockwood, and Anthony Robidoux for overseeing this initiative and just seeing it through to fruition where it is today. It's just absolutely amazing to see. You can't appreciate it until you see the inside of it and the different props and what this is going to allow your fire department to be able to do on any given day as far as training. You know, it will be the closest thing to real training that we can create outside of actually going into a burning house. So again, just extremely excited about this opportunity and more to come on that. On the downside, over the weekend, the fire station experienced an electrical surge. And I know this isn't new news to you all because I believe you replaced your fire alarm panel at Holly Hall. But I got a phone call yesterday morning from the alarm company stating the alarm was showing trouble, went over, and there was a power surge in Bristol. I think it was caused by the vehicle crash early Saturday morning when it hit a utility pole. I know I lost power at home, but there was no surge protector on the fire alarm panel, so it was fried. The Royal Group, who provides that annual service, was in this morning and confirmed that, did all their testing. I've submitted a quote and a PO to the town for approval, and I'm also requesting this be an insurance claim due to the cost, just shy of $5,000 to do this. But yeah, so that's a very unplanned expense. So I need to go the insurance route. I understand we have $1,000 deductible, but it's $4,000 more I don't have to throw away.
Mhm.
There's some activity on the vehicle front. We still haven't made a decision as far as a pickup truck. I'll just call it a pickup truck for everybody who's listening in. We're still looking at our different options, but we've also begun the conversations about the replacement of 2 more vehicles with 1 vehicle. It's in our capital plan. We're looking to replace our 1993 mini pumper and our 2001 heavy rescue truck with 1 vehicle. We were fortunate, almost 2 weeks ago, the Poultney Fire Department was kind enough to drive up one of their new vehicles when we were looking at, to allow our greater department an opportunity to look at the equipment on it, see how it operates, flow water through it, drive it. So that was really great that they did that for us. But we did determine, I think that evening, you know, based on feedback we received, that that particular vehicle is not going to be adequate for the fire department because it's going to be overloaded the day we take delivery on it, overweight. So the vehicle will be unsafe to be on the road. You know, should something happen, that would hold the town liable for that. So we're taking that into consideration and just looking at doing something a little bit bigger that can tolerate a little bit more weight. Other than that, I guess I'll answer any questions you all have. I know I'm on the agenda a little bit later to talk about the forest fire program. So I'll be on video for that one, and at least an opportunity to change my shirt here. So it's been a long day. Been a long day. So any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Change quick. We only have the consent agenda before you're out.
Oh, I'm quick. I'm like Clark.
Okay.
I don't see Jill on, but is that Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Steve's
Steve,
on.
I'll come back.
I don't see Jill on.
Well, we got,
Jill will be on there,
we have
Water and sewer.
water and sewer, so I don't know that we need an update
correct.
from them
Okay.
today.
Okay.
Consent agenda. Approval of letter of intent to participate in the fiscal year 2026 V-Trans Municipal Roads Grants in Aid Program. Approval to purchase up to $23,000 up to 23,000 of undesignated, unassigned funds for a vehicle for the community resource specialist position.
So B is the yearly grants and aid program that we apply for. It's just a letter of intent, doesn't lock us into anything. We've done it for many years now. Just want to get their approval for that. And then 5C, this is the vehicle for the community resource specialist position. It was discussed as part of the entire package that was originally ARPA funds. And now it's moved to unassigned funds, and so we're using that.
Is that,
For the purchase of this vehicle.
I thought we had allotted a certain amount for the vehicle, did we?
We were
I thought
gonna,
it was like
we were
12K
gonna,
or something like that.
we were gonna use the old cruiser.
Oh, yeah, but I thought but
Originally-
originally we had a number. 25, okay. I just couldn't remember. I knew we had talked about a number. I just didn't remember what it was. Okay. I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I was gonna say, somebody.
Gotta move along.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so Bruce has identified a vehicle. I don't know if you had a chance to reach out to the dealer to see if that one was still available.
It was when we talked to him.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, Bruce got a selection of 3 and narrowed it down to a single one. And then this price includes the vehicle price and tax and all that, and then any markings or equipment that needs to be put in for the not to exceed of 23,000.
Okay. Any questions for Bruce? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On to regular business. Town of Bristol Fire Ward position update. Brett LaRose.
Okay.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. All right.
Okay.
So, for whatever reason, I can't get Zoom to work on my desktop, so I'm looking at you on my phone, which is difficult. Anyway.
Well, you don't have to see us. All we have to do is hear
There
you.
you go, right.
All right. So as you all know, Mr. Edward Shepherd is the town's forest fire warden. That position is a 5-year appointment. That's appointed by the Commissioner of Forest Parks and Rec and with the approval of the local municipal governing body. So you all, the select board. So ours is due at the end of June. It comes to term. So Forest Parks and Recreation, who oversees this program, reached out to me as the fire chief to ask me about the forest fire program and the future of it. So these appointments, these 5-year appointments, they don't do all 252 towns every year. I think there's 4 cycles before or 5 cycles before they come back around. Hearing what they had to say, what they were looking for, and actually I noticed they literally updated their forest fire warden handbook May 5th. Because the previous version, I think, was 2018. But one of the things that speaks to it qualifications for the fire warden or deputy fire warden position. It's preferred that the candidates be a fire chief or, a chief officer. And that's because they're responsible for suppression. We're the ones that are doing that work anyway. So just kind of long story short, summarize this. I had an opportunity. This is not new news to Ian. I don't know how much he shared with you all, but I've had conversations with him. And a couple of weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go over and have a visit with Edward, and sat in his living room for about 90 minutes, and we talked about a lot of stuff, to include the forest fire program. And I was just trying to, I didn't go in there with like, hey, I would like to do this job. I was just trying to explain, what the state is looking for moving forward in the fire warden position, and, how he would feel about a transition out of it. And of course, that was the time I didn't realize it, because the position's not affiliated with the fire department. But if you all didn't know, Ed received an award back in January, recognizing him for his 30th year as fire warden. So he was pretty moved by that award. It's a very beautiful little plaque. But I've had lots of one-on-one conversations with Eddie in his living room over the years, and they've all gone very well. But long story short, he's enjoyed his time. He's served as fire warden, but he understands things change, and he is okay with stepping aside should you all choose to do that. So I'm here this evening just to give you that bit of information, and to let you all know that should you choose, I am prepared to take on these responsibilities. And I say take them on. I'm already doing them. So Eric Foran, the deputy chief, and myself were identified as key persons. Yes, that is a real thing. That's not a deputy fire warden. Key persons are simply assistants. They're allowed to issue burn permits under the fire warden. A deputy fire warden has all the same authority as the actual fire warden. But anyway, I issue a lot of permits. I get regular phone calls. I do the documentation. There's an online portal you have to enter these incidents into. Enforcement. I do enforcement. I'm the one that has to go out and have conversations with community members, who maybe didn't ask for a permit, or the fire's becoming a nuisance. I dealt with 3 of those just a week ago in one day. People are very sensitive to outdoor burning today, especially when you live in, like a village setting, where people are close to one another, and you got open windows, and people perhaps have health issues. So it's a very sensitive thing, and a lot of thought needs to be put into when and where you issue a burn permit. Yes, it's a very convenient way to dispose of clean debris, yard debris, but again, it's also brings with it its problems. And I know I mentioned to you all several months ago, I think it's time we look at possibly Bristol adopting their own ordinance, just to kind of highlight some of the things we would like to capitalize on regarding outdoor burning in Bristol. Because, we still have a lot of illegal burns that occur, or just backyard burning that's not permitted, which are usually the ones I get called about. So that's really all I have to say. Again, I just really wanted you all to know that I had that opportunity to sit down with Edward, and we had a great conversation about his time as fire warden, and that he's ready for that transition. And I'm ready to take on the responsibilities if you want me.
Brett, first of all, I want to thank Ed for his 30 years of service. That's been a great asset. But is the plan for you to be the forest warden, and then have like Eric be the deputy, so that you're not the only one doing it?
Well, so
if you go away, somebody else is here.
So don't quote me on this, but I believe the reason last time the board chose not to appoint myself and Eric as deputies is, I believe it had to do with the annual maybe appropriation. I think it's like $25. See, that's
It
my
It was too
recollection.
high at the time, is that what you're saying?
It was, I mean,
Wasn't enough.
at a minimum, if you were to appoint me as the fire warden, at a minimum, my recommendation would be that we would appoint the deputy fire chief and the assistant fire chief as those key persons. So in the absence of the fire warden, they can still continue to handle day-to-day business, if you will, just as Eric and I do today. That would be my recommendation. It certainly would be beneficial to have at least one deputy, just someone with that full authority. You know, should I be out of state or out of the country on a vacation or something and something was to occur. But again, you know, the fire department is that initial responder anyway to these types of fires. And we're managing the incident. So we're really not doing anything different than we do today. This is really just formalizing it.
Okay. Well, yeah, the town would like to thank Ed for his years of service. I think that's terrific and wonderful. I'm glad he was recognized for that. And I'd also like to thank Brett and Eric for being willing to step into the role. I think we should take advantage of that, since we have two willing participants who'd like to do it, who are already doing it now, but I think making it official, I think is a good idea.
I don't think I don't know if he said if Kevin was willing to or not. He just said that he.
I'll pull rank on Big Brother. He doesn't have a
There
choice.
you go.
Yeah.
So is that something you want us to do tonight?
Well, Ed's term doesn't expire until June 30th. And so it would be my recommendation that you honor that and let him finish out his term.
Yeah, but we need to get it to the state and have it be official.
Right, yeah, there's
We can
some
make a
paperwork.
motion tonight for the next round in terms of when that position
I'll make a
needs to be.
Starting
motion,
July 1,
I'll
yeah.
make a motion, we appoint Brett as the fire warden and whoever else he wants as deputy and
Okay.
the
July 1.
Key person.
key persons as.
That's a real thing. It's a real thing. It really is. You got a card and everything.
Yeah, because the current term, it's a 5-year appointment, ends on June 30th, so
Yeah.
July 1.
As of July 1.
Yep.
Have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Congratulations, Brett.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
I really want that big sign to put in my front lawn.
Yeah, tell me how that's gonna work.
You're gonna
No,
get Smokey
that's
the
not-
Bear too?
No, that's not happening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. And again, just thanks to Ed for 30 years of service.
Absolutely.
I had no idea it was 30 years until he told me.
That's great. All right.
All right. Town Green Fountain Restoration proposal. Hayden.
Okay.
Hey,
Come
folks.
on down. Join us at the table.
Alright. So as most of you know, I've sent some emails to the select board letting them know about maintenance and beautification actions in our parks, more specifically the town green. Right now, currently the fountain is down. We are working on a repair on Wednesday in coordination with Eric Public Works to help tip the fountain to expose the burned out pump. Eastview will come, they'll do the electrical side of it. We ordered a pump. Mr. Clark recommended we get the 3rd horsepower pump from Martin's, which we did. So hopefully that'll be a good fit and we can continue on. A preventative measure that needs to be reestablished in the pump is to put new screening around the base. Children play in the pump, play in the fountain around. The pump pulls in debris and then eventually it burns out. So the last replacement for the pump was 2021. That's too short. So preventative maintenance will help the longevity of the new pump. Eric had a great suggestion in regards to having Eastview add a load on it, so when the pump starts to overheat, it trips it before it burns out, and then we save the pump.
something, Mr. Clark detailed, because unfortunately, he won't be there. We extended an invitation for him to be there while we do the work, because he's the steward of the fountain. Is that there is conduit that runs underneath the ground, and he said it's probably getting pretty short. So just be mindful with Eastview to not get too crazy with cutting the leads too short, because once it's too short, we have a bigger problem. Exactly, that's a bigger issue.
Does he hang the pump from, when I did it, I used to hang the pump from the up inside, there's a hook in there.
Okay.
and a chain.
Yeah,
Keep it about 3 inches off the bottom, so you're not sucking all that dirty water, That's how I used to get more life out. But there's times I used to get bit where you'd reach up there and try to plug it in, you got it all full and it'd quit. And just, oh yeah, there's a couple of times I got zapped.
Duly noted.
I got zapped, you wanna shut those down.
Well, I'm gonna leave the electrical side of it to
Yeah.
Eastview.
I might
stop the kids
from
getting garbage in here. As your parks manager, I will be on site for
I have
this
some
as
pictures
well
of
with
when we rented
Meredith to make sure everything can work
I'll
without.
bring you some pictures. I
Cool,
got some
perfect.
pictures when you-
Is the screening that was in there no longer there?
It just, I don't think it's something that, I think it deteriorated and then
Okay.
it wasn't renewed as an action of
'Cause
maintenance. for
that was
long.
my question is like, can't we put up some sort of screening to prevent
Yeah.
people from
Yeah.
throwing stuff in it?
And, I conveyed a front porch forum announcement and, a few folks were like, I have some screen if you want. I remember there was some screen in the bottom of that. And I
Yeah,
was
but
like,
I'm
sure,
even
bring-
thinking
yeah.
on top of it, like, you could see
No,
it,
you can't.
you could see the water.
You just,
But
there's
not-
a square box in the bottom, the water all goes in and the pump sits down there.
Yeah, it's just like it's like a little
It's about
pedestal at the bottom.
18-20
If it's-
Yeah, no, I
Square
was
thing.
just thinking about a screen over the top so they can't throw things in it, they can't jump in it, they can't run in it.
Oh.
But that's not pretty.
At least with a
What about
screen-
barbed wire?
I was thinking of electric fence, honestly.
I think that's what Pete was leading to, or Joel was leading to.
I used to get-
Leave an open ground and.
I wasn't thinking that, I was just thinking of electric fence.
So that's the current status of the fountain. While we were kind of discussing the issues with that and a preventative maintenance plan that we can install for the future, moving forward, I had a thought about what the pump, or what the fountain used to look like
Right.
back
Statue.
in the old
Mhm.
days.
The cherub.
Chris Burley was able to dig out the head of the cherub. There's a picture of the cherub of the fountain. Wow, that's a nice clean picture.
Just the head or the
That
whole
is-
thing?
So we have, so as you know, we have just a piece of PVC that runs through the center of the pedestal. In the midsection of the pedestal,
Used to
there
shoot
are
water out.
some lion's mouths. We have some replacement faces, but those don't function as a feature anymore. So it's just basically PVC that comes through the top and just cascades out. The cherub, there is a picture of it being functional, I think from 20 or 30s. It would go through the cherub, and at the top, it's holding kind of a flame. It would cascade out in this beautiful rounded arched cascading water feature. The cherub is about 55 inches, Ted Lila said. Got some dimensions. I talked to Reg Dearborn. He gave me everything and anything we have on it. I took
That's
some of the
what I did.
articles and I just put together, because they're hard to read, because
Right.
they're
I did
photocopied.
read
So I
it.
have, for your entertainment, you can look at this of just like how it was put together. E.F. Moore put it together. They casted those two fountains, one for Greenwood Cemetery, and then the Village Improvement Society in 1908 community funded for the erection of the fountain in the park. And so in the 70s, there was an incident with the cherub where it broke. And we
Do you know
just
what the
have.
incident
I
was?
know, it sounds so
What was the incident? I'm curious.
It was a photo op gone bad.
a pre-selfie on that with the cherub. So it was damaged, it's casted, so it shattered. So we have the head. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to follow in the footsteps of the folks that lived in 1908 and do another community fund on, because we still have the head, which is important for making a new cast to scale, plus the detail is very intricate. And it would help the artist who would create a mold, a clay, they'd actually do it to scale in clay, and then they would cast a mold. So I reached out to Custom Castings of Vermont, they're in Randolph, and they gave me a soft quote of what it would take, and it would take about $35,000. Which seems like a lot of money.
Seems like?
Can they
seems
use
like-
the head?
Well, yes, they
So
can
they
use the
could
head,
use the head.
so that was kind of pushed me even further.
$34.99.
Yeah, so, what that would entail, and this is my soft quote I got from them, it would be a clay replica of the original cherub sculpture using photos provided, the many we can get. Using original head and measurements to determine the scale, and clay model will be produced. Then they make a silicone molding, then they use that to make the cast. And then it goes to the casting process, fired, kilned, and then it's coated in a patina to protect it, a couple of coats of that, and then a wax lacquer. So it would be, you can't see in this because it's black and white, it would be a brass patina, so it's more of a brown color. So if that were to happen, we wouldn't paint it True Value number 100 green as our Bristol color. Our main color is green, it's that color. We would I would suggest sandblasting the base again and then having it all back to what its historical accuracy in terms of its cosmetic
base
features.
brass?
Is the base brass?
It's the brass color.
I'm not
I
sure.
don't think so, I forget what it is.
So, back in the day, gentlemen contributed 50 cents and ladies contributed 25 cents. And there's this article you can read, I won't read it now, and you give it to H.N. Tatro, which is now Chris Burley, and they raised enough money to have the company from Burlington come and create the base, the concrete base, and hook up all the plumbing, and it is what you see today.
I will say that we are recommending people maybe donate more than that this time.
Yes, I mean, yes.
What would be the inflation to that?
Yeah,
What's the amount with inflation?
I didn't, you know, I'm here so it would require those steps for the cherub, and then it would require a sandblasting, and then they would tack weld, you know, the seams together and finish it. So there's.
So the base that the cherub is sitting on,
Yeah,
that's already a base.
Yeah.
That's out there.
and in the winter
Lion's
time,
mouths are all there.
there's a picture in the winter time from almost 100 years ago with a cone over it for winterizing it. So it would have this cone that would go over it and keep it from, you know, stuff freezing inside of it and obviously cracking it. So obviously if we were able to do this, we would have a long-term legacy maintenance plan for the fountain moving forward. I think it would be great to get it back to its original. I think having the head sitting in my office looking at me.
Kind of creepy.
Honestly.
Kind of
Creeping
creepy.
you out?
It's kind of, well, it's not, we dressed it up, we made it fun there, but it would be, I think it's something to be proud of, and it's a cooling space for our community, it's, you know, for better, for worse, it's a toddler bath and more for kids. As I'm sure as many of you guys do, my daughters grew up, you know, splashing around on the fountain. And I think it's really important for the parks and its overall beautification that I'm pursuing these days. You know, along with the turf maintenance action I took, and keeping the wooden play structure weatherized, which is another action that will be happening soon. The bandstand and, you know, all things park. So, I was thinking we would come up with some language and sort of a campaign that we could have like a thermometer or a semi-permanent sign. Technically, it would be permanent because this project would run a year. I kind of ran it by AZ to figure out signage would look like and permitting for a sign, and, you know, we could discuss placement if this is something the select board would like to pursue and grant me moving forward on.
Is there any discussion with the castellations that are on there, that used to be on there? At the
You
bottom
mean the
there?
heads? The
Yes,
little heads?
the little,
The
these,
lion heads are still there.
no, not the heads, these parts right here, these areas.
Oh, the
Like,
cat.
yeah, those
the
aren't
original.
there, but there's nothing, it's
Right.
just you wanna focus on.
I
them.
want to just focus on, you know, the centerpiece.
Yeah, that's fine.
And,
Do we put signs up around it to tell people not to throw stuff in?
No.
I did
I
make,
came
I
with
did have
Selectboard
a
in
sign, I did have a sign made.
1988, asked for them.
I did have a
When I
sign
was
made through
kid.
802 print, you know, galvanized sign, like a wayfinding sign style, that I developed in Canva that just says, it has your little stick figure guy throwing trash in the fountain with coins, and it says, do not throw anything in the fountain. Nice please at the top. So that's finished. I actually got an invoice for that today, and cause Greg lives in the area, he usually had him or somebody else drop it off, so I should have it in hand within the next few days. And it'll be installed at that, where we keep the memorial tree, there's that conduit that runs up, that little panel, it'll be on that facing side of that post. So it'd be like here, and here's the fountain, so you would easily see it. It's a few feet from the fountain, so, and I wanted to make it aesthetically pleasing, but not like just pretty meat and potatoes language, like, don't do this, so.
And have you talked to Frida at all? Like, is there any sort of historical preservation grant or anything that we could apply for?
There is, we had, and Frida can speak to this more than me, we had an email come in about, something that we could kind of wrap up with, with a grant that, well, let Frida speak on it. Frida, are you there?
She's there.
Do you have to unmute?
Sorry, yes. There's actually a couple different grants that come to mind that we could look at for something like this. First of all, thank you, Aiden, for spearheading the project. Yeah, I'm thinking there's like a placemaking grant that comes to mind, and historical preservation perhaps. And I know there was one that we looked at one time for the gazebo that we didn't pursue specifically because it was not considered a permanent structure, I think, so maybe that would apply to the fountain. It's definitely something we can look for funds for, yeah.
Right. All right, good to know.
So I figured in combination, I think campaign language and getting this information of what Reg kind of has really will shine a light on the fountain and its history. Also, it'll probably get people interested about what really the fountain used to look like.
Yeah.
And I think it would be exciting, and I think there would be community support for it in a funding way. And we could, and Chris can help speak to this, like, we can track the donations through MyRec. We could talk about having some sort of, you know, larger donation placard scheme for people who donate a lot to the fountain, you know, to have them recognized in some way. People could, you know, people who aren't through MyRec or have a household account through the rec department, they could also just come in as they did back in the day and cut a check, and it could be tracked through our network system.
And one other thing we discussed was like even do like a QR code right on the signage, so like 4th of July, when we've got 4,000 people sitting on that park.
Yeah.
That people walk by the thermometer, I mean, when Nate and I talked to us, it was like immediately went to old school fundraising, like I said, with the thermometer on the park and watching it go up as we maintain get to our goal, and really doing this crowdfunding style, and not burdening the taxpayers.
And the ideal goal would have it be finished for July 4th, 2026, where we could have a nice ceremony, bring in the community and everybody that's supported, Mr. Clark and everybody that's worked in some function or fashion to the fountain, and kind of have a reveal.
And do you have any concerns that it might, like doing community fundraising at the same time that we're doing community fundraising for the park, for the skate park, sorry? Do you think that that would hurt the fundraising for either project, or do you think that people view them as like two separate projects?
They're separate entities, cause not everybody who goes to the park necessarily goes to the skate park. Kind of different diasporas within the community, I feel.
Yeah.
Different interest.
Exactly.
Whole different.
So, and this is, you know, slightly smaller project.
Slightly.
I'm laying it down, but,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
Too bad that thing didn't look like this. I've got a 3-foot Statue of Liberty.
We're not putting that up there, Joel.
Oh, I cut it out front now.
And the Virgin Mary wouldn't work either, huh?
Or a flamingo, nothing from your yard.
I mean, I'm always interested in researching historical stuff, it's fun. It'd be interesting to find out who E.F. Moore was, and maybe getting more insight on what the actual cherub represents. At first, we thought it was this goddess of democracy, but that's before Tiananmen Square, which is really where that figure was erected, and as we know, but it looks similar in the way it's positioned. So this is long before that.
But that was a lady though, not a cherub, like a
Right.
little kid.
Yeah, so, just to talk, that picture is a lot clearer than the pictures I had, through email, through Reg, so, it gives it definitely more definition.
Yeah.
So do we like need to do
I think it's just,
resolution or
no, it could just
consensus?
be, it could be consensus in terms of allowing the rec department to pursue this.
I think a
project.
motion would be
Sure.
adequate, or would be the
So
better way
Make
to
a
do it.
motion that we let the rec department, start a fundraising campaign for, non-taxpayer funded money to be raised for, the fountain restoration. I think it's a good project.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Go get 'em.
Raise the line.
Awesome,
Great.
thank you, Aiden.
Appreciate that.
I'll dig up my old pictures.
Yeah, give me all the information that you have, would be great.
Late 80s.
I've never seen it with the cherub on it, so.
No.
Yeah, it originally ran right off when the water came from Lincoln. It ran all the time, there was no pump in there.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was gravity fed.
It was gravity fed
Yeah.
from the water system.
I can see that for sure. I mean, obviously they didn't have.
And
Like
that,
the-
He's showing his
then when
age.
we started pumping,
Yep.
when we started pumping water, we decided that wasn't the way to.
Wasn't very cost effective.
No.
Cool, well, I appreciate it.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
I'm looking forward to pursuing it.
Yeah.
All right, so we will suspend the select board meeting and open the public hearing for the water and sewer district annual meeting.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bruce.
Good night.
Review and approval of operating budgets and capital budgets.
Okay. So, let's look at some budgets. We'll bring up the, let's do sewer first, because that's the smaller, or the lesser of the two. Let's see what that is. Okay. This is, period 9, so end of April. This is what we're looking at so far. So everyone can see, that's so small. Very small. Side by side, that's a tiny bit bigger. I can make it bigger, there we go. Okay,
Can I ask what's in miscellaneous revenue? That was $6,000.
well, that's our budget.
Yeah, but what are we thinking we'd get from
Zero.
miscellaneous revenue?
I would say,
What's that?
The grease traps.
Grease traps,
Oh, grease traps.
Yeah.
And we've got nothing?
well,
That's your expense side, your revenue, there is some, I believe.
there's
Yeah.
2 that are paid.
That's the revenue side.
That's the
They-
revenue
they-
side.
They've just been just been done, and so I think it's the,
We've only done it once this year?
well, the most recent one has just been done. But I don't know why we're,
Unless it's all just going right into user fees.
it could be.
The first one was paid before this fiscal year, the second one was paid in October of last year, and it needs to be moved over.
October 2024, you're saying? So, and then we have one
And then we
more?
got one, yes.
Then we got one more.
today.
One showed today.
Okay. And the year started July 1, right?
Right.
Right, okay.
It runs in conjunction with your.
So we got one more billing.
That's what I was asking, we have one,
Yeah.
that, I was like, these numbers seem low, but,
Yeah,
That
but
makes
our,
sense.
our expenses are down as well.
well, that's what I'm saying, they all seem low.
Yeah, it's because of the way that the fiscal year of this runs.
And I assume the appropriations won't go in until after basically the end of the year, end of the fiscal year. Or towards the end of the fiscal year.
Yes. For the sewer, which appropriation?
It says capital fund appropriation.
Yeah.
Which I think was a bond payment that they got done with and we decided to put it in. Right? Wasn't that what it was?
No, there's still a bond payment for that. I don't know I don't think that's, over yet.
Well, the bond payment says 0.
For a
Yeah,
budget,
And then
there
the
is a bond
actual,
payment
and then
says
the actual
9,
says
yeah.
9,000.
Right.
So we didn't bond it, in our budget last year, we didn't bond any money
Correct.
for bond payment.
That's an odd number for a capital,
Yeah.
capital
Well,
fund.
Very-
but that's what I
yeah.
thought, I thought there was a payment,
What did we have a
we
bond?
had one last payment and we decided that once that was done, we would just continue to pay and put it into the appropriations.
to add up to 20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bet you we just got them in the wrong place for this
Did we have a
budget.
bond for the sewer department?
Did you have the North Street sewer?
We're
Did
still
you do the
paying
North
US
Street
Bank.
something or other?
We're still paying US Bank for
Yeah.
sewer.
We ran a line with the water line. When we did the water
No,
line, we ran a force main up to the fire, up for the library.
Library.
Yeah, and that goes straight to the library. It's outside at the curb. Steve found that. Because we were sort of kept wondering about the potential for adding the library in. And in the discussions we had, we collectively, we couldn't remember if it was to the fire building or if it was further. But
I
Steve,
thought it was just to the fire station.
it's not.
No,
Steve,
it was
Steve
for
found it.
both
He has plans that he gave me, just as in the inventory and doing his check every year. Because he knew that we needed to look at that, and so he found that, so that's right to the curb. So, when we do start to work on the, being able to add more to this system, as we start to bring down the BODs and things like that, there is potential to sort of price out what a connection for the library might be, thereby,
There's
unburdening
issues,
them with their septic.
there's
So-
issues with the district or it's not a
Distribution?
district. It's not a district, it's, what's the sewer system? There's.
Core area?
There was, we didn't do it before because there was an issue with,
We have to get, user approval, we have to get the commissioner's approval to add on the library. We put the line up, but
but it's outside of the
Core.
outside of the core
sewer
area,
Right,
core
Ah,
sewer area,
That's
which,
interesting.
which created an issue.
like this building is outside,
Ah,
we add this
okay.
building to it.
So that's,
Okay, so
that's-
something to be
there's more
aware of.
to it than just
Okay,
hooking
that's,
it up.
that's good to know. I've never heard that before. That's interesting.
Just so you know, in this new budget says bond payments 12.5, nothing for next year, and they're putting the 12, I don't know how
Yeah.
it comes up with
So that's what- that's what we
12,809
did
in the reserve fund,
previously,
so.
yeah.
I think there was just one last payment,
Okay.
which was this year.
So that's where we are with sewer. One of the things that we wanna do, let's see, let's look at my other one here.
What is that total all funds, what? That 5863, What is that?
It's our total revenues minus our total core area sewer, or the total expenditures. That's what it's
Oh,
like.
okay, gotcha.
It's
the 29 from the 35.
correct. Okay, so,
Are there any other major expenses we're expecting? Because,
Like the maintenance of the septic tank line is only at 50%, is there something else gonna be?
I don't believe
And our
so.
lab
Hi, Jill.
testing is only at 2,500.
Thanks for
It's at
joining us, Jill and
2,500.
Steve.
Yep,
Anything else? in terms
I've
of-
been on this whole time. So there is still another pumping out of the septic tank that will go in on this year on the sewer side. And are you still on the sewer budget or have you moved to water?
No,
No,
we're
it's on
so
this budget.
Yeah, so there probably will be another pump out of the septic tank. So that's like 20,000 gallons at 30 something cents, like a little over $6,000.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah, because the last one we did was April. We do every 2 months, correct, Jill?
Say that again? Oh,
We do every
that's
2
no,
months, correct?
that's the splitter. What you're talking about is the splitter box and the exterior grease traps. That is one splitter box to us and 4 grease traps to the other 4 business owners. Then
Yeah.
it's the septic tank, the sludge pumping out of the septic tank. That's probably like a little over $6,000.
And we do that twice a year, right?
Well, it depends on how full they are. We've been trying to do, there's 2 sides to the tank. There's left and right. So we've been trying to make sure that we keep it clean like twice a year because we're trying to improve our effluent quality by not letting any of the solids or anything nasty kind of get into the splitter box. Yeah, so I imagine you probably have like another 7 because you've got the splitter box stuff and then you've got the the sludge out of at least one of the septic tanks. That's what I would expect before the end of June.
okay,
We'll want to do it before June sampling.
okay.
Okay.
So this one, similar to what you're looking at the NEMRIC one
Which
before.
one?
The one before was the
Whoa,
NEMRIC.
whoa, let's finish with the sewer if we're.
No, we're still on sewer. Oh,
I thought
sorry.
it says water,
No,
that's.
hold on a sec. I gotta switch to the right one.
Wrong document.
I got too many files open here. Here we go, sorry. Let's try that again. There we go. So this is essentially our,
Oh,
yeah.
no, they're both sewer now.
Yeah,
okay.
but these are both sewer, so this is our newer layout, which sort of tries to organize it a little bit nicer. This is taking the NEMRIC information, so we've got our actuals here up to May 1st. So the numbers are the same. So the only big
Make that
change,
a little bigger.
the only big change is how small I've made this text.
Okay, that's good.
So everything that's in the NEMRIC report is in here, it's
This
just
one
in a
here.
different place,
Okay,
correct? And so this
So
is,
which one are we using, left or
So-
right? I know they're both the same.
they're both the same, so what we're doing is, this is our current one on the left-hand side, and this is how we currently done it. So the only big change that we're making really to both these budgets is, one, looking at the numbers and obviously putting in for budgeting for the next year, for 2026. But we're also sort of cleaning up the personnel side of things. We used to have this split out, and as you know, through our previous budgets, we've sort of changed
Right.
that. So what we're doing is, all of these will be condensed into just an admin fee. And you can see that currently we're at the 4,972, and this is a proposed, the 5,100. It's a 2.57 increase. We're looking at sort of, on the water side, it's being recommended at the state level that we maybe look at a 6% increase each year to sort of keep up with costs. On the sewer side, we're not sure what we want to do with that. Maybe, I would say at least a 3 to be able to keep up with inflation and costs, but maybe even do higher. But we're just
It's
looking
the
to.
same people doing the work on both.
I know, but it's not just that, but in terms of the user fees and all of the associated things with it. So that's, you'll see that later in water. It says that this is gonna be the new, moving forward, we won't have this breakout, which always adds a lot more complication and time to be able to do that. It's just gonna be a set admin fee for that. but everything else will stay the same.
But at that, increasing that, you're not saying the rates are gonna go up 2.3, or,
I think we have to. I mean, we've always tried to be very good with our rates, but as we're seeing on the water side of things, with the projects that we're doing and with the costs that are associated with it, I think we have to start increasing, and I think it has to come from a variety of areas in order for us to meet what the system and the replacement of the system will cost over the next 6 or 7 years. So we may be looking at, you know.
You're saying we're gonna have to replace the sewer system in 6 or 7
No,
years?
sorry, the water system, but I mean, it's the same kind of thing, but I mean, there are more and more costs that were associated with the sewer system, and we're trying to fix problems that we have as well as plan for the future. You know, we're very limited at the moment, especially on the BOD side and the materials that are going into it. It's just severely sort of limiting the system and what it can do. We have the capacity, but not in the areas that we need it to be able to add more people on or even expand and things like that.
Are we getting close to having an education plan and?
Yes, so we're working on that in the next month or so to try to figure out what we can do, how to approach that, we're trying to get data for in certain areas to be able to use that going forward. There are methods where you can sort of capture a lot of data, but then it really doesn't give us what we want. So we're trying to sort of zero in and figure out where we can get that data from to be able to have accurate reports.
whatever happened to that, was it a year ago, or at least a year ago, we had, someone did a study where we know our BOD it's too thick. We're not even using much water, we're using, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7,500, 8,000 gallons a day sewage, and we're rated for 10,000, but it's so thick because of the
It's so
gallon and a
hard,
half
yeah.
toilet now. It's built on a 5-gallon system.
Right.
Remember Valerie had this thing come in, this team come in,
Yes.
and they showed us all these fancy
Yeah.
stuff.
I was just reading
Was that
those
just
minutes.
sitting on a shelf now, done?
It's not that it's sitting on a shelf, it's just at the time when we discussed it, it was a new option, and there was a tremendous amount of cost associated with going that
The
direction.
wheels, the algae wheels and stuff,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
it was sort of, it was untested. I mean, we could definitely look into that again and see the potential, but that's.
It's
you
a
know,
cool process.
Yes, many years down the line, and it's something that we'd have to.
But
take
yeah, it was
into-
expensive.
Have a much deeper dive into, if we wanted to look at that. And it's not just, Jill, can you speak to like the BOD as well as the other materials that are in there that are affecting the system?
Yeah, so what you guys have is hydraulically, you have capacity for more wastewater flow. You don't have it organically. You have high BOD, high TSS, and high fats, oils, and grease, because all the users that you have connected to your system are not your typical residential wastewater user, which is what your wastewater system is. You have high strength waste users. You have lots of restaurants and food preparation services. So we've got educational materials pulled together from a bunch of different classes I've been to over the last probably 2 years about the high strength waste. I've got a handout that one of the consulting firms that does high strength waste prepared that I'd like to kind of create our own version. And basically, if we can get our connected users that have any kind of food, anything that's organic, that has high sugar, high alcohol, high fat, to side stream, meaning put it into a bucket and send it to compost somewhere, not into the sewer. So what's happening is, like, if a tap is overflowing and it's going to our drain, that's going to make our BOD way high. If plates are getting rinsed off down a drain instead of getting scraped off like as clean as possible into a bucket first, that's going to increase our sugars, our fats, our oils, and our greases. So it's really a matter of us teaching our connected users how to side stream all of the high strength waste to keep it out of the sewer. What we want our sewer to be is water, toilet paper, and a little tiny bit of people doing their business. and taking showers and doing laundry. That's it.
That was a very nice way to put it.
Yeah, that's it. That's what our wastewater system's designed for. It's not designed for, heavy restaurant and food service type of waste to be going into it. Most sewer systems aren't.
Well,
So
I mean,
it's
that's not
a
just
matter of
education, that might be a policy change that we'll have to do, saying you are required. I mean, if you give them an option, you're not,
How you gonna enforce that?
I'm just saying, well, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's no different than the state saying you have to compost.
Yeah, I mean they're telling us we have to do a lot of stuff. So the thing about basically you guys don't have a wastewater treatment system, so you have one, but it's like it's household level basic. You just have a septic tank. You don't have any kind of treatment.
Very large.
We have a septic system, not a sewer system.
Exactly. So what the algae wheel that was proposed is a type of treatment where the waste liquid would come into the stream, kind of like a rotating biological contactor, and be aerobic, anaerobic, and kind of create a biological matter that might build up and bulk up better and settle better and have a little bit more bioavailability for the sludge to break down, for the bugs to be happier than just sitting at the bottom of a tank. The problem with the solution is the size of our system. So we've got 34 connected users, and something like that would mean bringing power, water, and like a $1 million treatment component down to that field. And I can't picture without massive grants how to just have 34 users pay for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. So, I mean, we have to try the educational, even if we feel that it's gonna be a difficult thing to do. I think it's. We have a limited number, right, we have a limited number of users. We know all of them. They are established businesses that have been here for years, most of them. Some are newer, but I think it's to their benefit as well as to our benefit to have a system that can help their business maintain and stay here. And so I think part of that education.
They either comply or they end up having to put a holding tank in that's pumped
Right.
every time it's full. Then
Right.
they won't put anything
Right.
down the drain that they don't want.
Yeah, and we wanna work, they wanna be here, and I think for a lot with this issue, it's just not something that has been discussed with them before.
Right. So why don't we do a meeting with them here?
I think we should put together a really good presentation with a lot of materials they can take back with them. But also, I think we need to partner up with some type of composting service too. That way that when they're putting something into a bucket and they're side streaming, they understand it. And I'm pretty sure I could probably get somebody from Vermont Rural Water or even the state of Vermont. I might be able to get one of the wastewater, like Heather Collins. I might be able to get her to come and present too, just to teach a little bit more about all the different things that we could do. I mean,
Isn't that fee back to for commercial users to compost, that's fee based for them as well, unlike residential where it's free, so we're talking added cost there again, so.
Well, the cost of getting a holding tank, the cost of not having a septic system, I mean.
So we have the right to require each of our connected users to put in a sampling port and to sample as often as we'd like to because they're connected to our system. We could literally create a set of rules that state that the effluent coming from their discharge that's influent to our system can't be above X, say 300 milligrams per liter BOD, 300 milligrams per liter TSS, etc. If they're in default of that, and they're one of our 2 largest connected users, and they make up more than 10% of our flow, we can require them to get a state wastewater permit, a discharge permit to discharge to us, and require them to have additional treatment. I just want to make smaller steps in a positive way.
But don't we have one of our largest users, and I won't mention them, but one of our largest users, don't they have a grease trap? And we've talked about that since I've been on the board, and we're still talking about it. As Peter said, we can't go over and put a cap on the end of the sewer thing and say, guess what, don't flush your toilet and brush your kitchen drains anymore because they don't work.
I'm pretty sure I've seen grease traps everywhere. Some of them are just undersized. I mean, there's a particular user along Prince Lane in a particular corner that has one, just very small, compared to the larger 1,000-gallon grease traps that 4 of the other connected users have, that have far more capacity. So I think it's a multifaceted approach that we're going to have to take to kind of reel it in, educate, get our data, and try to just get the numbers down so that we can have new connected users if we want to and not be anywhere over permit.
I wouldn't mind seeing I will call it, and maybe we do, I can't quite see that from here, is maybe we have a grease trap fee. So this building here doesn't have a grease trap. It's got a toilet in it upstairs and down. So there's no grease trap, don't cook food here, so they don't have the grease trap fee. But the restaurants or certain delis in town and places, they have a grease trap, then you're gonna get charged a grease trap fee. I don't know
So
what that is.
what they call that in your ordinance would be a surcharge. Like you would have a high strength waste user surcharge.
Then we should be, if we're gonna do that, we should be able, in order for it to be fair, we need to be set up to monitor it.
Exactly.
So we know what the strength is.
Yep.
I agree, because I spent 4.5 hours in the class with Randy Bean. He's the person that wrote all of these permits for all of the industries and other types of connected users that had to have their own individual permit. And he was posting the material on the board, like 400,000 milligrams per liter in like a cup of maple syrup. Our limit is like 240. Do you see where it's like beyond anything that our tiny system can handle?
What's changed?
So what's the expense of putting in this monitoring system for everybody?
Technically the expense would be for the individual users. They would be putting plumbing into their properties that we would have access to. I've never installed one, so I wouldn't know what the cost would be.
I think that's something we probably ought to research and
At
find
least
out.
get a range.
So we know when we go to a Covers or a Bobcat that we can say, you know, this is what we're looking at and it's gonna be.
Yeah, and that's
X
part
amount of
of,
number.
and that's part of the data collection. You can capture it where it's a number of users coming out at a certain place, but then it's hard to sort of differentiate between those. On some of them we can, because we know that they're sort of separate, and we can use the monitoring equipment that we have, but actually installing something that we could monitor in each of the systems, that will give you the most accurate.
It would be more like having individual sample ports, because really for that type of thing you want a composite sample, so you need to be able to continuously sample for like 12 hours. I mean, 4 would be okay, but 12 would be ideal. So you get kind of like a full business day of what the discharge is from that business.
Yeah, we can do that with some users, but not all. And I think we would need to do that with everyone, to be fair, and then we start the sort of educational process, but we need that data first.
Yeah, so we could do the educational process while we're researching what other options could be.
Yes.
Because
And
maybe
inform them that
if this
we're
doesn't
doing
work,
this,
right.
we're doing this education because this is what we want and this is what you're gonna be charged on.
Right,
Right.
if it doesn't,
Because if we
the
don't do
education
this,
doesn't work.
if we don't do this,
Right.
this is what's gonna happen.
Right, so I like that, education with consequences, I like it.
Right. And part
Yeah,
of it is
I call it like sticks and carrots.
Yeah.
Right,
So we're not doing numbers for the next coming year, we're gonna be working on those in the fall, right, for the next budget?
No, we need to do it for this year, because this year, we have to do the 2026 budget, which is starts.
July.
Correct, and then we will work on the 2027 budget.
Okay.
So we are budgeting.
Okay, let's move
We don't
on.
necessarily have to put these numbers in tonight, but the next meeting, we will wanna put some numbers in.
And just so you have full disclosure, we have about $5,000 in arrears right now under sewer.
Nice,
So the $5,000 that we have in
Oh,
line,
that's not our budget, that's not what we have
Our
left.
admin fee?
no, our $5,000 is that a good number? It was on the other paper. The 50, that's a good
This
number?
one, on this
The
paper?
revenue line, user, yeah, the 51.
The 60, 48?
No, the very last number, the
Yeah,
58,
minor.
right down.
The
That-
58, 63, 13?
Is that number accurate?
No, it says 51,390
Is that number accurate?
for what our budget was, yeah.
That-
But our
that's what,
actual is about $5,000 shorter than it should be.
so we should have a little over 10 grand there, is what you're saying.
40, yeah, because each billing for sewer runs around 12,000. The last one only ran at 10,954, but it's pretty consistent. And we have one more billing. But
And
right
there's
now-
5,000 in arrears between however, whatever number there are out there.
Yeah. For sewer.
So with that, we'd have
Plug the hole.
We'd have 10 grand, so we'd be at 30,
And then they have to do a pumping at
35.
6.
and then 12 would put us at the,
35.
Yeah.
so 47. We're still gonna be 10 shy of the, 10 shy of our budget,
Correct.
but if we spend 10 less, then
Yeah.
it all works.
Yeah, we seem to be consistently, over budget the last few years. I did that comparison sheet in the last discussion.
I was gonna say, yeah, we tend to overspend for sewer, and it's because the sewer pumping is very expensive.
Yeah.
But it's like an absolute necessary evil in a sewer system. If you don't do that, your solids get to your leach field, and then you have nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty important.
And the whole idea about with the testing and getting that data, we're not taking a accusatory stance on the businesses or anything like
No.
that. Like, I wanna be clear, like, we're doing this to enable the system to have longevity.
And more capacity.
And more capacity, and so
I was
we're,
just trying to, trying to figure
is-
out where the high strength waste is coming from and finding a way to side stream it so it's not going to the sewer.
right, we know it's there, and we wanna work with everyone who's involved with those kinds of materials that are going into the water system to figure out a way to have them go somewhere else. And so we're very open to wanting a discussion about that, to be able to make sure we have longevity for this system.
Exactly.
How much, do we have in the, for a better term, capital reserve? Let's say the water, sewer starts bubbling out of the ground, like, some of us, tanks in the ground, and you gotta call an excavator and come over and say, I need a new septic system. Boom, and it's, what are they, 20,000, 15,000?
Depends.
Depends on what it is.
Right, here in the village, it could be, a
For a
tank and
now
a.
system, it's
Well,
probably
not
30 to
really, but-
40,000.
Right, but I'm just saying,
$1,000 a year.
we don't even have that money for catastrophic if something
No.
happened.
Yeah.
No, not at all. There's not a capital reserve to be able to replace like an entire leach field or a tank or any
I
of
mean, this
that.
one-
It's
It's like,
Used to be. So in the past, you guys are putting a little over $1,100 a year into your cap reserve.
Oh, so
Right.
we must have a fortune in there.
We must have a
This is the
fortune,
bond.
maybe.
until this year,
This is the bond
22.
they moved over. So you moved over, you budgeted the $12,000,
Right.
it looks like, Michelle, you were correct.
Right, yeah.
But it didn't calculate right because we still did have a bond payment, so.
uh,
So you really only have about $1,100 available again this year.
Yeah.
But, so you really don't have much of a cap reserve for your sewer, especially when the sewer's overspends every year.
right.
So,
So we do need to think about a rate increase then,
Yeah.
or something.
Yes,
Well, if we get the levels down, then our pumping costs are gonna go down.
correct.
Is
This-
that right, Jill?
Well, yeah, because she won't have to pump it as often.
Yes.
Okay.
And it should be if they're side streaming. I mean, you have to assume that some of what's settling in the septic tanks is some of that high strength waste that could be side streamed, and that some of it really is just traditional septic, which You have to expect that with a septic system, that you're gonna have to get rid of that.
Yeah, but if we got rid of the, you know, the grease and the fats, I remember when we, when we, before we put that other access in the tank, what a time
You
we
remember
had to
blowing the
access-
air?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
And making the
that was
whole
gross.
downtown fragrant.
That was so gross. Yep, I remember washing that. It's like, wow, what did you do? We blew it with air, we got it out. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, yuck.
So that's where we are with sewer.
We need a rate increase, just to, any leftover gotta go into this
Yeah.
Yeah.
reserve. And, you know, that system is how old, bigger? 30 years?
1995, so you're right, 30 years.
Pretty good guess, all right, Jolie.
Yep, right
At a
on.
3% increase, will that then cover the anticipated hole? Or do we know what, like, that 3% increase would work out to in dollars?
Did you say 3% or 10%?
Isn't it 3% or
Well,
2.57?
But that was administration.
That was just the administration fee, that wasn't the
Oh,
full.
that wasn't,
So
okay.
on the water side, in terms of keeping up with costs, the state is recommending like a 6%, or at least Amy at the state was talking about that, cause I had said, well, we're thinking of, you know, what's your yearly increase, and I said 3, and she said it's, you probably need to be higher than that, so obviously our sewer system is a little bit different than that, or a septic system rather, so, but it still has to be, I would say, at least 3% in terms of just keeping up with costs to do the things that we need to do with the sewer system, let alone do the sampling and trying to get it to a level where it can maintain itself for the next decade or two.
Yes, and like the engineering report keeps saying to like replace the dosing siphon counters, and doing that means replacing the tanks. That's tens of thousands of dollars. So I will continue to argue, how is counting going to do anything different than produce, like how is it going to change my permit conditions of BOD and TSS and flow?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
don't, I don't see.
changing the tanks isn't gonna do anything for us.
Yeah, I don't
Except for
see the
costs.
value. The tanks are fine. The one that was really messed up, we fixed last year. And that'll probably be good for another 10 or 15 years until the sulfuric acid eats away at it again.
Right. Alright, and let's look at this for a sec.
Did we raise the rates last year? Ian? I don't
For
remember.
sewer or water?
Sewer.
I want to say we remapped them significantly.
I don't remember what it was, but I did change the rates in the system.
Okay, what's our miscellaneous income and water?
We're not done with sewer yet.
No, I think we're, unless
Got
you
the
have
water
more,
up
unless
here?
you have more sewer
Well,
questions.
do we have to set the budget tonight?
Not
No.
tonight.
Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion, I'm gonna make a motion, 5% increase. budget.
No, let's have a think about that,
Okay,
and then we'll see.
What's the 21,548 in miscellaneous revenues? I think I asked this before and I don't remember if you guys, what the answer was?
We
Like it though.
that it was, you put that up, Sharon? There.
No, I didn't print because it doesn't tell you a whole lot, but I know there's some line extension stuff in there.
Okay,
A lot of your connection fees.
We've gotta look at it,
Okay.
yeah, we gotta look at them and see what they are. They probably just need to be moved into the right category.
so this was updated today, so water fee revenue is,
no, it's just, this one isn't as of May, this one was the end of the third quarter, 331.
Yeah, there's only 4 water bills a year in a
so this
quarterly.
is 3 there
No,
now?
this is period 9, where we're at now, this is the most recent right
Yeah,
here.
but it's,
Um,
yes, but
well,
it's only
I-
through 331.
Correct.
Right.
Right, I
That's what it
realize
says
that.
up top.
Yes, that's period 9.
We expected a budget of 387,000, we've only got 100 and,
Almost
just under
200.
190. So my question is, we're 49% just about. Is that 3 reads or only 2 reads? If it's 2 reads, we're right on track.
Right.
If it's 3 reads, we're in trouble.
There's 3 reads, but only 2 collections, how's that? Because that's about,
Well, the third collection just went by.
yeah, I mean, we're just.
Yeah, so this,
Okay,
okay,
so this is only really 2 full payment, 2 full,
Pay cycle.
Pay cycles.
I mean, yes,
Revenue cycle.
when did we do last read? Was that in December? Did we do one in March?
We did one in March and the payment date was May 8th.
right, so we don't have that
And
one
we'll
yet.
do another,
okay,
Right.
so next week this will be updated, possibly, or if the payments.
Depends on-
In the last 2 weeks, I've seen a
Oh, we've got.
water payments come in,
Okay.
so.
But they're not reflected in
They're not
that.
reflected in
Not
this.
Not
reflected
for
in
the
this.
third quarter.
331.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna do another read last week of June, right, Jill?
No, the second and third week of June. We try to do it right around the 12th.
Okay,
And, like-
second week of June. Okay. That should be your last for this fiscal year.
That should be, yeah. So basically by like the third week of June, they should be able to complete water bills. And that way you'll have real numbers for your budget as well. You'll know what your actuals are.
So in 2 weeks, when we meet again, will we have most of the reads? Will the what billing's been coming in? You said you got a bunch of checks.
Are you guys cash or accrual based on that?
Accrual.
Accrual.
Accrual,
So
so it doesn't
that'll
matter if the cash is coming
48,992
in.
will be up there to maybe 68, 70%.
Yes.
Okay, that.
It better be around 75.
Or 75, you're right. Yeah, I hope it would be, but.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty consistent over the last 5 years with this.
So Jill, is our electricity going down? Because I know last year it was like over 40K. And we're at 32.8 now.
I mean, we did put VFDs in. It's supposed to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
So,
lot.
I mean, it's supposed to. We supposedly have the most efficient drives that we could have. It doesn't change the rate of electricity though. You know,
Well,
like that
yeah,
doesn't say that our kilowatt hours went down. That just says that our bill went down, which I'm happy that our bill went down. It should. The VFDs were really expensive.
So we've got
Electricity.
Electricity.
water, electrical,
I
32,
can't see it
5.
from here.
Come up here, Sharon.
32,861.
Right.
Come join us
We're
at the
already
table.
Well, I
We're
know,
already
that's what I'm
over.
saying,
We're
we're
over our
over.
budget, yeah.
But last year it was over 40K.
Well, we still got 2 months to
2 more
go.
months, I know, and it's like, okay, we're not going down.
Yeah.
Solar goes in here and electric, regular electric.
Yeah, we were at, so the last 5 years, we were at 108% in 21, we were 92% in 22, 128% in 23. This is based on, of course, we probably changed our budget. We were 155%, that's that 42,000 in 24, and now currently we're 32,000.
Oh, and
So,
then some of that's based on, is due to leaks as well.
right, and just the amount of time, so.
Yeah, but we keep fixing leaks and then I don't see
Yeah, well,
a
that's-
difference, so,
It's
you know.
not gonna be a tremendous difference
Right.
unless
I think we need to,
we
I
can
think you need
offset,
to add 10 grand to that water electrical line.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the leak fixing, which is
Minimum 10 grand.
which is the bigger change in terms of the entire system replacement. We should see that, but it's not gonna be for years. Or if we can, whatever projects we can do where we can offset with solar and things like that, we can put it towards this. We just don't have the ability to get this down without, I mean, the VFDs helped, but not a tremendous amount. It still runs a lot.
Well, they're huge pumps. If you've seen them, they run like 527 gallons a minute. They're huge. They're
It's not what we're putting in the fountain, I'll tell you that.
they're huge. I mean, and they
That would
have to
spray,
be.
that would spray
have-
water over the reservoir.
I mean, they're impressive pumps. They work for the amount of water that they're moving for
Yeah.
water production, not the water that we're selling, but the water that we're producing. They're moving a lot of water.
Did you ever get anywhere with your friend about putting a turbine in the water coming back down the hill? Or
So
do we not have?
she
do we
said
not?
if you guys determined that you wanted the equivalent of a pressure reducing valve, because you don't currently. You know what? Steve's supposed to be doing a full hydraulic study for your Bristol East. I wonder if we could just have her peek at that. Because we need to, if we were to lower the pressure, like say we were to take 40 PSI with some type of hydro capture, because we do have a lot of pressure coming down. And it would reduce that pressure, and it would take that as power. then we'd have to just make sure there's still enough pressure and flow for the water system to have a good pressure by the time it gets down to like the high school and Plank Road, etc.
Okay.
What is the, and this is either a Jill or a Sharon or a Chris question. The water inventory,
Anybody.
the water inventory expense of 24,750 that we didn't budget anything, was that over above the grant that we got for
No.
doing all the water inventory?
The grant was 100% reimbursed.
Correct.
So
What's that?
will we get that reimbursed back, that 24,750 or no?
We got back most of it.
We got back about 99% of it.
And there should be, I think, is there revenue? Okay, I don't have that. So, did we revenue that line now somewhere?
No.
No, it's not up here.
Okay.
But we didn't get.
It says water inventory revenue, but there's nothing there.
They disallowed some of it, and I think this 24,000 is what they disallowed.
That's a lot to disallow.
That can't be. The whole thing was 92 or 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't get it all.
I thought Ian said we got the whole thing. I don't.
We did.
I guess I don't see that
I'm
part.
gonna double check. There's something wrong with that calculation.
Okay.
There's no way, because
I'm not gonna argue with you, because I already looked it up,
Okay.
and we only got so much. I can show you the form where they disallowed 3 of the bills.
Did they give an explanation why they disallowed them?
I think there is on the bottom of it.
did that come to me?
No, I already showed it to you, I told you about it.
You got too much.
Okay,
I just-
because I'm the one who submitted the forms for the payment,
I
and
know,
I
they
didn't,
sent them back crossed out. The 6750 was disallowed, another 4500 is disallowed, and then like 12 or 1300 of another 4500 bill was disallowed.
okay, well, we need to look into that, because the whole point of that program was that it was 100% forgiven. Like
Right.
that was, and we talked to them today about that, so,
Yeah, well, we didn't get it all.
okay, well, I'll look into that,
Okay.
that shouldn't be what
It's
happened.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So similar to sewer, our personnel expenses will just be, will move into just an admin fee. And so we're looking at,
20,000.
yeah, it's 20,000, we're looking at maybe 20,400, that's a 4.15% increase. And these numbers are based on a certain amount per user. And just so we can just keep it easier, it was based on your suggestion from a couple weeks ago, just like you just charge a flat fee, so that I just worked out what that might be. And obviously that flat fee will increase as we increase budgets each year.
It's like if you look at your GMP bill,
Yeah.
the third line down, it says $3. That doesn't change. You get a $32 bill, it's $3 of that line. I
Right.
don't know what it
Well, there's
says.
a heck of a lot of,
Or when my bill is
lines on the
$4,800
GMP
at the main office and it says $3 on that line.
Right.
I asked them what it was.
there's certainly, training we haven't really done anything with, supplies, uniforms, I think, I was talking to Chris today and Sharon, it's sort of a holdover from when we used to manage the system. I think we can clean up and remove those lines and not have to budget for them, doesn't make sense to. Yeah, there's our water inventory, that will come back to us, obviously not all of it. Water, electricity, the contracted services and the operating contract. Our building overhead and maintenance, compliance testing, all the usual things, our bond payments, which are 3 at the moment. And so the 111 is now including the Pine Street bond. And then as we move forward on the water line replacement project, more bonds will be added to that amount for our debt.
Yay.
And this is our capital improvements. There we go with that.
I was gonna say, I'd like to, so we're really gonna put this to bed in 2 weeks, discuss it again and come up with a published budget, so we can, for July 1st. Is we need, I mean, we meet at 7 o'clock, by 5 o'clock at night, I want, if a check come in at 4:30 that afternoon, I want it in the revenue
Yeah.
side. You gotta know, you gotta know. we haven't put them all in.
Joel, I don't think that's possible because what Sharon just said is that it's accrual based. So if it's accrual based, if the bills aren't out, you won't see the revenue line
Well,
until June
I
20th.
get it, you can't put something in your guest for the last read, which is
The
the June
fourth
12th.
one.
I get that part of
Yep.
it.
Okay.
But if we read them in March and they're coming in now, and if we know, okay, we got
Well, what
600.
she's saying is if it's accrual, it should say that what the bills were should be in the revenue line, not
Yes.
what we've
was
got for
received.
check.
Yes. Yeah. So you have 3/4 of accounts receivable bills. You don't necessarily have 3/4 of cash receipts because what Sharon is telling me is that is an accrual based number, which means it posts when the bills go out. It doesn't post when the cash receipts come in.
So we're, if that's the case, then we're 25% off on that budget. We're only at 54%, and we should be at 75.
Well, you are actually.
You are.
I read it while we were talking, we're at 75, we're at 74
We
and
are.
change,
Okay.
74.6.
So we don't have the
Yeah,
right numbers in front of us.
We have one more bill to go out.
Right, I realize that.
You mean, yeah.
But
today-
the sheet we have up here says 54%, and we're at 74%, which is,
So the
That's where we should be.
so the 118 isn't right,
crystal one.
or 181.
181.
Was that the revenue side?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's at 288,887.
See, there you go, that makes it much better.
Yeah.
Sorry, much better, that's not good, but yeah, I hear you. Okay.
Right, and
No,
the other thing is like your first quarter was billed out at the prior rates, and then your second quarter was billed out at the new rates. So you kind of had like a, maybe $6,000 to $8,000 less of revenue in your first quarter. So it's still, if you normalize your 3/4, you divide by 3 and times by 4, you're not off by too much. And if the last quarter comes in 5 or 6 or 7,000 more, well, it'll only be a third, so it'll be like maybe 2,000 more. Then you can kind of see where you're gonna land.
water, but
Okay. So there are those budgets, so obviously be thinking about those numbers, as we move in a couple weeks from now, and I'll get you more information and updates on that.
okay.
Okay, are we ready to move on? Water
Do you
line
wanna know
replacement.
about our shortages,
Yeah,
So
shortages?
doesn't-
non-payments?
Sure.
Get the wrench out.
Is that just for this year? Is that just for this year, Sharon? Or there's some of them?
No, right now we have total $66,000 in non-payment
On water.
on water.
Time to
And
get
how
the
come they
wrench.
still have water? How come there's still water running?
I have to read the ordinance to see what steps we have to take in order
Yeah,
to
because
shut
there's
the water off.
it's
I'm
hard to-
pretty
Well, the
sure
new
that we have to put
ordinance-
a notice on their door, Sharon.
Yeah, no. What's that, Jill?
So what it used to be, we would have to put a notice on their door and give them 24 hours to pay. And we would knock, and usually they'd be at the town office by like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Because they knew that the following day their water was going to get shut off, and they didn't want that. So it was pretty effective.
What's the statute around that now, Joe?
I'd have to read the ordinance because Kevin just barely updated us inside of our draft ordinance.
No,
Just to-
No,
our
the current-
ordinance is
about the
fine, I
current
wonder
one.
what state statute is around it, make sure our ordinance is in line with state statute.
That's
That's
what Kevin did. So I
Okay.
don't know if our current one is. All I know is that the one that we drafted is because Kevin went through it with a fine-tooth comb.
But I feel like the state is more restrictive. You can do
I think the
that.
state leaves it to the
Oh, it
water
does?
departments. They have certain criterias, but I don't think
That's
they,
what I think they have their criteria.
So what was that number, Sharon?
66,000.
66,000.
How many users is that? Do you know?
7 pages worth.
So they're not big ones, they're all little
We
ones.
did get a bunch of water payments, but, so this number, the current one will be lower, but we have some that are older because they had water leaks and they haven't paid.
Right, I mean, like the
So-
30 days, up to like over 60 is only 6,000, I mean, we really run into the big numbers, the over 90s.
Over 90 days.
over 100.
Yeah, over 120, I mean, these are bills that have been out there for a
So
while.
just delinquent water bills, okay.
Yeah. But some of them are due to leaks, and they're
not making any
they got it fixed, but they're not making any effort to pay that.
Pay the
overage.
upcharge,
Yeah.
So we do have to do a proper notification.
They also can
So we have to do
request
that.
abatement through the BCA, which I just found out not too long ago, which I didn't know, but just like they can do taxes.
Mhm.
They
And
can
it's,
request abatement, and I
it
think you
says
have to
there's-
tell them they have that option.
right, and it says there's also, if the delinquent amount is below a certain threshold. So are these all, but these are all like pretty high payments that are due, or are they fairly low?
$1,800,
Oh, okay,
$3,000, we've got.
they're saying like under 50, so it sounds like all of those would be okay.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't waste your time.
So then we would just need to, then we would just have
Tell my wife
to,
next time we're $85 bill, then
give
we
them
look at
notice.
$35 of it.
Well, I'm just saying if it was a real long legal process, you know. and it
Yeah,
was
I get it.
So that's on
cost-
water, what about anything for sewer, any delinquents for sewer?
Yeah, she gave us that.
5,000,
Oh, that's 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that was it, sorry,
less
yes.
people,
Thank you,
less people.
less people.
yes,
Do we need
no, I know.
people, we really need to collect those before September 1st, because to get into cold weather, you can't shut water off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. Kevin went through that.
Okay. Get
What
the
does
wrench,
it-
But there are some.
get the door hangers and
I mean,
then,
we
and then
prefer
get the
not to
wrench
shut the
out.
water off.
Right,
That's
right,
the idea.
exactly.
Hate to be here.
We prefer that they just pay it, we don't have to do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But I think we do need to come up with a notification.
A notification and tell them
And
they need to make arrangements
Yeah,
or.
and we don't have that, we
Right.
don't have a clear system that we're doing internally for, both for delinquent taxes and for, the water, to be able to just consistently do that, and that's all part of that process that we need to.
And remember, we can't turn water off to rental units, right?
What's that?
Can't turn water off to a rental unit,
No, the landlord cannot, you cannot.
correct, and we
The
have.
landlord cannot. I don't know about the town. I mean, no, technically, I don't think you can, because if it turns
Right.
off the whole
It turns
apartment,
off the whole.
everybody,
right.
you can't do that.
Well, unless the landlord pays the water bill.
Landlord, yeah, they,
No, you still can't. I don't think you can.
So.
'Cause you can't shut
what I'm
everybody
saying is that there's a couple large bills out there that are around, that are rental units, that
Why would a renter ever, why would a landlord then ever pay his water bill?
Leak,
Mhm.
Huh?
this one had a leak.
Yeah.
Massive one.
Okay,
Yeah, we could put liens
Yeah, I mean,
against that.
you can put liens on their title.
Yeah.
is that a park?
What's
Is that still from, how old is that?
which one,
The leak.
The massive leak,
private one?
the massive leak that was more than one residence.
Oh, he's been here and talked to you about it. Just across the street, blue house.
Down the end of the road a little bit, just before the bridge.
Nope, before the bridge.
That's what I said, just before the bridge.
Yikes.
Yeah, that went
So-
through the meter.
So,
Okay, next.
yeah, so we can.
So we're gonna move on. We know we need to, we got a lot of stuff we need to do. Water line replacement schedule review. I think that's you, Steve, if you're still awake.
Did we
You
forget?
need to.
Did we do not 7A or?
no, he should,
That's what we were just doing.
Yeah, that's what we said to.
Okay, I thought. You read the end of the meeting and then. we
I think
discussed the
Steve did fall
application.
asleep.
no, Steve, alright, Steve, sorry, you can unmute now.
Oh, it was Ian controlling.
I made him co-host before, but maybe he bumped off and then came back on. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, it's all right. So as everybody knows, we have really 3 phases left to go, right? We've got phase 2, which is Bristol West, phase 3 is Bristol East, phase 4 is Rockydale. So currently, I'm looking at the master schedule on my wall here. Currently, we are basically right on schedule. I mean, we have all the permits in place for Bristol West, I know Ian's gonna talk a little about lead service lines. That could throw a monkey wrench into some things, but we'll discuss that later.
We don't like
Yeah,
monkey wrenches.
we are really
Yeah,
waiting. We're really waiting at this point. You guys submitted the priority list application back in, I think it was end of January, beginning of February. That's what we're waiting on. The state keeps coming out. In past years, they've notified you in June and July. I've heard some rumors that it may be later than that this year. We're waiting on that because the priority list is really their offer to you for funding. That's really what it means. They don't have enough money to go all the way around, so they're gonna prioritize the top so many projects
Well, we're gonna get the short end of the stick.
and offer them money based on your application. So, no, I think you guys have a great application. I think you're probably, Ian and I and Jill working on a couple of things, but I think you're gonna score very high. You've got a good application, and I think you hit all of the boxes for the great majority of the points that we could have gotten out of the funding application. So I think you're in great shape there.
That's great.
Bristol East, same thing. Bristol East right now, our master schedule, and I can share this with Ian, and you can pull it up if you want, but our master schedule right now, which we made up 2 years ago, essentially said that we were going to work on permitting in 2025, which is exactly where we are. So we've got most of the layout for the water lines complete. I've got some work with Jill that we're doing right now on all of the service lines and service connections. We've got a bunch of other utilities yet to locate. We've got another couple of weeks and a minimum of field work to do. But it's coming along. I've got the base drawings now. We've got all the roads laid out, buildings, most of the water lines, a lot of the other appurtenances, two houses, telephone pole, all the stuff that you would expect on a set of design drawings. So we're making pretty good progress there. And I think we'll be in great shape. I've got the bid specs, I would say 95%, unless we change some things related to service lines for Bristol West. And my goal, my hope is, let's put it this way, you folks would receive notice from the state that you are eligible for funding. If you accept that, I'm talking about Bristol West right now, if you accept that, hopefully we would start the bid process. There's quite a bit to this, and it takes like 60 days before we have to do some advance notifications for some of the DVEs. That's a 30-day process, and there's a bunch of other things that go into that as well. So before this physically goes on the street, we need about 60 days notice. I would hope that that would hit the street sometime in October, and you guys would have bids in hand sometime in January. So we had plenty of time to review the bids. You guys could make decisions and award it before March 1st, right? So then they'd have time to order materials and get underway either in April or 1st of May. So I think we're pretty well on schedule, and we're doing as well as could be expected. I don't think we're behind in anything. Like I said, I think the one monkey wrench, and I know Ian's going to talk a little about lead service lines, that could throw a curveball into some of this, but we'll see.
Steve, will we know, or by October, or now maybe, with the inventory now complete, or pretty much complete, I guess there's maybe 60 or 75 people that didn't answer, that how many service lines we have are lead or galvanized or non-copper, let's call it just non-copper? Do we know that?
You can't say non-copper.
Ian,
Because
would
we
be
have
helpful to pull up
plastic
that map.
Well, that's what I'm saying, okay, plastic,
Hang on, Steve.
So,
that we,
so
so we
that's,
could,
that's a great question. So we put together a map and realized this is still draft. We've got some work. Jill and I have some work to do on this. We just literally pulled this together over the weekend. But I think it gives you a sense of the magnitude of what we're talking about, right? So all the things in red are based on, this is all based on Jill's inventory. All the items in red are ones that we know are lead or galvanized. All the ones in yellow are the unknowns. So when you think about this in context, and there's another page to this which goes off toward Rockydale.
so.
You got Martin Hardware in yellow. They replaced their service line when we did West Street.
I would imagine there's going to be a few on here like that. Like I said, I'm just going from the inventory I was given. We just shaded in, whatever.
Part of it is is because we have people that haven't responded. You know, I sent out the list to all of us, so we could sort of go through and see if we could recognize anyone we could reach out to, and we did a little bit of that. But part of it is still non-response from people. And so we have to,
Go door to door.
correct.
Right.
Or we have to do another pass and see what we see, and sit down and sort of make the unknowns known. 'Cause
Right.
we really need to do that if we want to do the service-led inventory.
So the red was obviously somebody answered and said, no, I got a galvanized line. The yellows, they didn't answer the survey. Am I correct in saying that or no? You
So
said
it's
there was
not
the
just the
unknown.
survey. The survey was sent out either 3 or 4 times. Door hangers were put on. People were called. Like we made like 6 to 7 attempts. So there's just no response at all. No opening of the door when we're knocking, no response to the door hangers, no response to the surveys in their bills, no response to the surveys online, nothing. So these are the ones that are the most difficult to get that are left. And quite frankly, in some of the other communities, we found it very effective to meet with people in the community that have done replacements and worked as contractors that might know what some of these yellow ones are because they did them or they saw it.
Right. Yeah, and there's a few that Jill and I are still scratching our
What's
head on.
your business, your garage down there? One of the yellow ones?
Yeah, that's on a well.
So why is it in yellow then?
I don't know. It's just
you
like
not
the
answer
two
the
red ones
survey?
the two red ones way over on Plank Road.
Exactly.
That's,
Those are the ones that were just put in.
I know that, no, I know that,
Oh, no.
that front one is copper
One
because I put
forward.
it in.
Okay.
That's that used to be Jerry Ute's house. And then I'm not sure what goes up to, the back one was my grandmother's house. I don't know what went up to that. I don't know who
Is
owns
that
it now.
Cobb's
Yeah,
house?
that's a shop.
No, this is, I thought this was your shop.
Peeker, maybe we should do like an hour and I can go through the entire inventory with you because you might know a lot of them.
Yeah, I think it's helpful seeing this graphically. It really points out something. Peter, did they put in Plank Road? I thought it was put in the 80s. Is that correct?
No, that was late 90s, Plank Road was.
Yeah,
what?
that way out there was those two were actually fed from the line that came off of Pine Street.
Yeah.
Isn't that Lance's house or your grandmother's house?
I have no idea.
This one right here?
I'd have to go up and look at it, Michelle, because I can't see from here. It's a big.
Because I think that's Meadow Lane.
This is an initial draft, and when I sent it to Ian and Jill, I said that very clearly, like, look, this
Yes,
needs
you
some
did,
work.
Steve.
We're just going from the inventory, and there's probably some institutional knowledge here that could be really helpful, because if there's areas like Plank Road, for instance, that weren't put in until the 80s or 90s, there's no way they have galvanized or lead lines, so.
Right.
So anything that is not a color, is not lead, and is not unknown, those are ones that have responded.
Correct. That's what
Okay.
So they were-
responded or we knew.
Yeah.
Right.
Those lines were originally galvanized when they came from,
Corner of Liberty and Pine.
yeah, from Pine Street.
Okay.
And there's another house there that, well, they're all on water now, I believe.
All but
Okay, so that's to be discussed at another time, in terms of updating that map. But we have that map, and we also have, there's the remainder of that, which is here. And that's the Rockydale side. And it's the entire thing, but that's.
So, in regards to Rockydale, and I know Steve knows this because I found out he ran into the forester. Hay Johnson's gonna be up there cutting.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to the forester today and I said, is there any chance that you could clear us like a 50-foot path all the way down through there? And he didn't say no.
Down to where? Down to,
From the reservoir down.
Yeah, cause they're cutting in there now, or
Right.
they're gonna cut in
Yeah,
there.
it's all tagged up there.
I got a couple up by the tank they can swap out of there too.
Yeah.
That look like they would like to fall on it if they had an opportunity.
I mean, I don't know. I just gotta believe it'd be a lot, if the trees were gone, it would be cheaper to go cross-country than it would be to go down the road.
If we have enough soil cover, yes.
That's, yeah, you got a lot of ledge there, right?
Well, you don't know what you're gonna hit on
Yeah.
in the road either.
They're both gonna be bad.
Yeah, we'd have to
I
do
mean,
some, we'd have
You know,
to drill.
when I stone lined the ditch across from the Lord's Prayer Rock there, I pulled rocks the size of Volkswagens out of there.
Oh, that's cool.
Believe it.
Okay,
I think you could go down through there in the woods if it was cleared cheaper than it would be just traffic control on 17.
Well, traffic control, repaving,
Yeah.
even if you had to deal with a couple of big rocks.
so that's where Steve's at in terms of those two projects, Bristol West and East.
So, sorry. Steve, Bristol West, if we, in March or they award the bid and everything, will that be all the rest of the streets in Bristol West, or we're gonna do that over a 2-year period, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear some of that, Joel.
We're gonna do that Bristol West over a 2-year period?
Yes.
That's what we discussed and you guys approved sometime. You know, I'm not opposed to anything you guys would consider. I would just ask you to consider this, right? A lot of those are narrow streets. We're gonna shut the street down completely, right? We had the advantage on Pine Street of being able to, it was pretty wide and have at least one-way traffic the majority of the time. We're not gonna have that with these streets. And I think if we get into doing multiple streets at the same time, we're gonna have some serious traffic issues and a hell of a lot of complaints from residents, which is one of the things I think we all wanna try to avoid. You can imagine shutting a street down for basically a month at a time. You don't want to be too far away. You don't want to be 3 blocks away parking your car trying to get to work and get in and out. And we've got to make provisions for emergency vehicles and all sorts of other things. And we start to get into multiple streets where the traffic control gets to be a nightmare. I think we're all going to get a ton of complaints. That's not really where any of us want to be.
Okay.
It's pretty disruptive. I mean, you guys, Joel's lived through it last, 2 years ago. It's pretty disruptive to the residents who are there. So I think you need to be measured in how you approach this.
It doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So, yeah, the idea, I mean, we batted around the idea of a 1-year project versus 2. And I think he's been recommending the 2-year. It gives us possibly a bigger bidding pool in terms of the contractors who might do it. This is the size of the contractor.
Yeah.
If someone doing it in a year, this isn't really a year, versus 2 years, and also just disruption in the village.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a really good point too. I think you're gonna attract more bidders if you spread this out. You're gonna have a lot of your mid-sized contractors that are gonna bid on this, right? And the more people we have bidding, the more competitive it becomes, the better the pricing you're gonna get at the end of the day.
Okay.
So, if this is take a pick, you guys, if we combine phases 2 and 3, for instance, and this is an $8 or $9 million project, you've got a handful of contractors in the state of Vermont that will take that on, right? You're not gonna have anybody in Addison County, I don't believe, that's gonna take that on, likely. We had, I think at the pre-bid meeting for Pine Street alone, we had like 12 or 13 bidders, and I think we had.
I think it was 13.
13, yeah, and I think we had 7 that actually bid on it, which is fantastic, right? I mean, that's competitive. And you knew coming in there that a few of them didn't have much work and they were really going to compete hard for your business, and they did. And it resulted in some great pricing for you. And I'd like to approach this the same way, rather than have a small handful of contractors, and some might even be from out of state, right? Compete on this and it not be nearly as a competitive a project. And also, I think there's some benefit to you folks to having local people, to the extent you can, do your work for them.
Okay. No, I don't have any brothers 1 year or 2. I was just asking.
Yeah, we're planning out in terms of each phase would be 2 years, more than likely. That's what our sort of rough estimate is. But there's still a lot of complication in terms of around the pricing and how we're gonna do that, so.
And you might have a 3rd year of just some contractor coming back and doing, if there's 75 accounts that are galvanized or.
Those need to be done sooner rather than later while the money's available.
Right, so we had a call today.
Right.
With Cindy Parks, Patrick Monks, and Katie Parrish at the stake. So we had a bunch of questions to ask them. So the first one was talking about the 100% eligible for reimbursement. And so even though the inventory was 100%, or whatever percentage we got back, not quite 100%, unknown at the moment, they said that currently the lead service replacement is 50% forgiveness for disadvantaged communities. We fall into that because we have our small water district. It's the same number we're using, the MHI, as we're using for the calculations for the bigger loan project. So they're estimating a cost per service line is anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000, and the average that they're seeing is $10,000. We think internally, Jill, Steve, and I, it should be more. What did you say, Jill? Around 4,000 or 5,000?
After having done a bunch of them in town, it's like 3,000 to 5,000, unless somebody has like a quarter-mile run. Or like, you know, I mean, the tricky parts are getting under porches and getting under, you know, into breakable little stone foundations. But even with that, those are still the numbers. So they're saying it's like 5,000 to 20,000. And so the average is 10,000. And I'm said to them, yeah, because you're going through all the hoops to make it a funded project. So if it's only 50% subsidy and you're 2 to 3 times more expensive, the project costs more. You're borrowing the same amount, if not more. I don't know. It's just a bummer. I mean, I understand the good part is that there's financing. The bad part is that it's conditional financing that has to have all the hoops to jump through to make it a state-funded project. You've got to do your historical and your environmental and your engineering and your bid process and all of that. So I don't know. I'm not like blown away by the offer, honestly, but maybe you guys are. Maybe it's more. The other thing they said was that I needed to talk to the drinking water division, because if we're going to replace the town side, they might make us under the lead rule replace the customer side. They can't make us pay for it, but they can make us mandatorily replace it and figure out who's going to pay for it. So I do think there's going to be some interesting potential mandates.
What they don't know won't work.
Yeah. So there's ample funding available for this, however.
It's
But it's not
funding.
100%.
Nope. It's 100% eligible for a 50% subsidy under the 2022 federal monies that they have that they still haven't finished spending.
Yeah. They got a lot of millions and they have plenty of money. And I asked them point blank, it'd be a lot better if you could give us 100%. I said, we jump on it, we do it next year, and they can't do that. It's just part of their agreement that it's the 50% or 49, you know.
They're so deceiving when they let stuff out, and then you get the actual conditions.
Yeah, because they said it's 100% eligible, and I went, 100% eligible for what?
Right.
To get charged for everything you do.
100% eligible for a 50% subsidy. So, which is, they'll reimburse all of it. You just got to pay half of it back.
Yeah. So we have to decide whether we want to do that. We can run some numbers. I don't have them now, but we have to figure out if it's 70 lines that we're replacing. Let's say 70 is spread across west and east. How much that might cost on that side versus what it might cost if we did it individually, or the homeowner does it. So it's.
We laid them out some pretty good questions. We also asked them if we could do the service lines. We asked them if we could do them as small purchase or direct purchases. And what Cindy said is a smaller direct purchase is up to 250,000. And it ends up part of a contract, but it can be bid out separately. So we could do 3 for no more than 250,000 as smaller direct purchases. And you think of a small contractor bidding on a $240,000 project for 1 year, or 3 of them going out and being bid, that's probably pretty attractive to some smaller contractors in our area.
Yeah.
And would possibly get them done swiftly, while the 100% eligibility and 50% subsidy is actually still the real program versus whatever they come up with next.
Yeah. Because even though they're saying the average we're seeing is 10, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing a project for that. If we could organize it and get our,
And do it
together
for
on
5,
our.
they're still only gonna pay 25 though.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you do 70 at $5,000.
It's $350,000.
You divide that by 2, it's $175,000.
Yeah.
That we gotta figure out how to come up with.
Well, the thing is, it's gonna end up more if we use state funding because they make us do the project as the town, so we've gotta get easements.
Yeah.
It ends
We
up
asked
more. They're not 5,000 each, they're 10,000 each, just because this is a state project. It's just, we could put them out to bid as littler projects. The cost actually comes in from the fact that you're working on you're having the town and their contractor work on private property. So there's a bunch of legal documents that have to be done.
Yeah, all the hoops end up making it cost twice as
More.
much.
Sort of
Well, I
back
mean,
to
your
350.
your other option would be to extend out your internal town loan program and encourage
Yeah.
homeowners to hire their own contractors to replace their side before the major contracts come in, so that it's already done.
Right.
It's that
Right now-
everybody would have to pay back whatever they had to pay back to the town, and that might create some disdain.
Right now, under your revolving loan fund, these wouldn't qualify, I don't believe.
Right, we would have to update the revolving loan fund terms in order to cover something like this, if we wanted to pursue that.
I think we did.
We asked if our larger DWSRF project can have a project manager, and are those costs included within the project funding, and the general understanding is no, we haven't seen that. We asked about permit modification, that's the one we need to talk to drinking water. What was the other thing, let's see, so the bigger question was, we asked them is if we can combine phases 2 and 3. So, when we look at numbers, which I sort of briefly touched on at the last meeting, let's see here, let's see if I can get this up. Trying to get these nice and small for you.
You succeeded.
Good.
Oh, the numbers look big, I can tell.
Okay,
That's why you had them small, so we couldn't see them.
so these are the scenarios. I created these last time, and then we're sort of updating them as we go along. Currently, if we want to get forgiveness for the first loan, or sorry, our second loan, Bristol West, which we're 4 million, and we want 40 years, and we want 40% forgiveness to bring it down to 50 grand. This is what we have to put in the reserve fund for the year before. 264,000. So essentially, we're padding the reserve fund to get close to being eligible. They probably will look at that and not like that. You're not supposed to do that. We're fine with putting more money into our reserve fund because we have larger actual reserve fund projects that we need to do anyway. 200,000 one year, 350,000 another year, 200,000 another year. So we need to put it up anyway, but if we want to hit any kind of subsidy, and this would be the highest subsidy, this is what we would need to start building towards. If we do this over the next 6 or 8 years, we're gonna have a tremendous amount of money in the reserve fund, far more than what we could actually spend. So.
Oh, I'm sure we could spend it.
Well.
This is just water, this is just water.
Correct. So they could not like this. It's in the regulations that you can't sort of have cash accrual in your reserve fund to match and get funds. I'm just running this as if we wanted to get this forgiveness, this is what we'd have to put it up. We could do it, and they might question it, but I don't know. If we show that we're building over the years, if we show that we have projects that we need to do, if you plug these numbers in with what we currently have in the reserve fund, it's, each year, even with larger projects that we're doing, outside of the water district project, we have hundreds of thousands that are in there, which is usually far too much for a reserve fund. You're saving up for your $750,000 fire truck, and then you're dipping down and you're much lower, and then you're saving up for the next 10 years. So using this plan, if we want to get the highest, this is what we would have to do.
So, like, I see there's year 2030, you'd put 180,000 out of the water bill in
Yeah.
the reserve or,
The reserve fund.
That's a reserve fund.
What does that do to our rates?
right,
Well, it makes them pretty high. So this is where we're at now. This is actually very close to what my bill is as a water
Yeah.
district user. So we're about 400. So as you can see.
so it's my bill would be about $164 every quarter, or every
Yeah.
quarter.
So it's going up because of those reserve funds, try to meet and get that number as low as possible for the next 40 years for our different phase loans. You're going up in a really steep trajectory.
I guess my question is then, we're done phase Bristol West and Bristol East before 2032. Well, they'll say, well, we're not gonna, we wanna know in 2026 and 27 and 8, whether they're gonna
Correct.
50%.
Generally, what I've done here is it's the year before you're paying back. That's when they're looking at what your budget is in your reserve fund. And it's not looking at the total of the reserve fund, it's just looking at what you're putting into that. And I'll show you the form that we're using that we didn't have before for Pine Street. So you sort of have to continue, you have this upward trajectory of increasing this reserve fund, and then you start to take it down as you secure these loans. And of course, this is over the 6 years, so things can happen. This is just a what if everything is going smoothly.
Nothing ever goes smoothly.
No, which is the thing. So this is sort of like best case scenario in terms of those loans and the forgiveness to them. 50,000 is the smallest we can get them.
For a payment?
For a payment, correct, if all goes well.
Payment to the reserve, not
Yeah,
payment.
No,
payment to the
payment.
loan.
So
Okay,
basically the 3 projects would be 150,000,
Correct,
which is gonna put us,
yeah. So this is 5 years, so in 5 years from now, we've gone from 400 to 660. And then you can see we're going up higher and higher, and then it starts to get, it's a slower, I mean, you could start to do that curve where you're like, whoa, and then it starts to slowly shallow out a little bit. So that's one potential. So this is 50% forgiveness and 0% interest on loans, phases 2 through 4. And then your reserve fund increases to match thresholds of loan forgiveness, which is still questionable. They probably don't like you doing that. We have control over it. It's the only thing we really have control over. We don't have control over the actual expenditures each year, what it costs to run it. I mean, we do kind of through rates, but then not, because we're trying to we create the rates to support the system, in a manner of speaking. So scenario 2, ooh, that's small, sorry, hang on, what was that? 100, 210, okay. All right, scenario 2 is no forgiveness and a 2% interest, similar to what we got for Pine for our first loan. That's $178,000. So we've gone from 50 to 178,000.
I don't like that.
Because it's a 30-year, not a 40-year, and we got 2%. And this is not changing our reserve. This is just leaving everything as it is. I do think we need to change it, but it's a matter of sort of figuring out how we want to increase that. And then with this, with our new debt we take on, our 4 million for East becomes 40 years, it's a 0%, and we get 49% forgiveness, pretty close. And then by the time we reach this the fourth phase, we're at 50% because we have so much debt. So now,
provided everything stays.
that's right, so now we're at 279 versus 150 for our 3 phases. or phase 2, 3, and 4.
So get over to the,
I'm still getting there. And I have all scenarios, next to each other, so you'll see, because there's sort of some similarities. So that's where we're at. We start to go up, not as sharply, because we're not increasing that reserve, but then we have obviously a fairly decent jump when we hit that first payback. So 400 to 600, just because of our new 30-year. So there's that.
This was based on the current, or used it on 650 or 700 customers?
it's
This
based
is-
on not,
this is
based
based-
on not padding our,
Yes, and it's based on not
Capital.
padding the reserve, and also, so the change that we've made is that we had our 695 number that was used for Pine Street, but talking to the state, it seems unlikely, it's still unclear to them what number it's gonna use. So what I'm doing, I'm using our 977 number, because when we went through, Chris did a ton of work to recreate and to modernize the water payment system. He used the exact instructions that the state has for the DWSRF loans in terms of how they calculate their costs. So that's how we set up our uses, which is the correct way to do it. It's not just the connections, we have 640 or so connections, or 670. And
Or
so,
like KTP, one pipe goes in, they call that one connection, but there's 40 users over there.
correct,
And we're
So-
calling it 40 or one?
40.
we're
We're
calling
calling
it
it
40.
40.
We are
Every single-
previously,
Every single house, every single dwelling unit
Is
is
one
a
user.
unit.
yes.
Okay.
So that's what's in, so that's, Chris looked at that when we started to redesign that, that's the method that we followed. This is an easier way to do it, cause like if the states, that's how they're looking at it. So previously, we were using 695, which got us into different thresholds. I'm very concerned about using that, because if you look at the loan application, it talks about how it calculates residential units and non-residential, and it's exactly the method that we now use. So I'm using the highest number possible for the worst case scenario. Maybe the state does calculate at 695 or 710 or something, in some way that we don't know. But if we use this to calculate, we know that that's gonna be that's truly what our billing unit is. So I'm dividing that.
so we can't get, yeah, we wouldn't end
There's no
up
way the
with, we
state's
wouldn't
gonna be-
end up with 1,200
No.
and them not funding us.
No, that's not gonna happen. If we get lucky, they may use a different number because they calculate it in some other way that we don't know about. But we're putting this in here because if you put the other one in, it seems like we qualify, which is what the last discussion we had. And we were adding like 100,000 to our reserve, and we were then able to qualify for a 40-year and a ZIP2, and it's only because of that number, and I'm just very concerned about using that, because it's an awful lot, and if I'm talking to Amy at the state, and she doesn't know which number they're gonna use, that's not great, she's gonna find out, but I feel for us to be as cautious and comfortable as possible, we use our 977 and see how that's gonna split
So
out.
where do those numbers come together? This is where you're going.
Well, I'm just
It's an
trying-
awful buildup.
No, it's not a buildup, it's just sort of showing you the different things, so
Weren't you
that's,
here when he went through these the last time?
No,
hey, I've got some new ones,
yeah, these are different.
Yeah,
so.
well, your time is up.
Let me extend that then. So this is a new scenario, which is, again, 0% forgiveness, 2% interest loan. But we're not taking as much, we're taking 3.5 million from the state for 30 years, so it's less. And we're offsetting that with maybe a $500,000 Northern Borders grant, similar to what we got for over there. So that puts us in a fairly decent position, but again, look, it's starting to get different now because we're offsetting that grant by 500,000. So now what we can get is only 27% forgiveness instead of 49 because we've offset it. So it's like, it seems like scenario 2 and 3 actually give us almost identical numbers in the end.
With just more than one funding source.
That's right.
Yeah.
So do we try to get another funding? You know, I don't know. It's just like, that's the thing, like you'd have to sort of stack them. And we talked about that a little bit today in terms of using multiple funding sources. But it has to be an awful lot because if you drop it too low, then when you're applying for that next one,
You don't qualify.
you don't qualify. You run the numbers. And then scenario 4, which is our latest one, is the
Get grants
idea,
after the fact to pay the
Huh?
loan down. I said, can you get grants
know,
after the fact to
right?
pay
Yeah,
the
I
loan
wish.
down?
so scenario 4 is running it as combined phase 2 and 3. So we see if the state agrees to say, can we do this over 4 years and have it be an $8 million project? To get our forgiveness, we do a little bit of increase on our reserve, which is fine, because we're gonna need to do that anyway, because of the size of some of the reserve fund projects that we're doing. And so we get 8 million, we can get it down to 40, or we can get it up to 40. You don't get any admin fee, and then we get 35% forgiven. So now we're at 130. We're at a pretty good rate, so our final one, we definitely can get the full thing. And there are our payments. So if we look at all of them together, can everyone see that? Okay, so that's what we're looking at. So scenario 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our number 4 here, that's our 8 million. Number 1, first one on the left, that's our, if we jacked up the reserve fund for many years. And then our 2 in the middle are
So the first one, you're not even sure if they'll like.
Correct.
no. It seems unlikely. I just put it in there because if we truly wanted to try to get as much as possible, that's what we would have to do. And it's the only thing we have control over. And we could justify it, but they may look at that and say, that's an awful lot of money you're putting in your reserve fund. Because I'm sure towns are, if they have this spreadsheet and try to calculate, that's what we're doing. It's this endless sort of permutations or permeations of what you could do to try to reach a level where you can get any kind of forgiveness. And I was very direct with them. I said, look, I know it's not you guys, but it's very difficult. Like, there's no way we can possibly do this without getting some sort of forgiveness. It's just, you price out people in your community that don't have the resources to pay this amount. And part of it is like, well, our water isn't expensive. We pay a lot more here and there, but those systems are 10 times the size of ours. And but they understand, they know it's a difficult thing, but also, so
if they used, in scenario 4, if they used a different base number, we could actually do better if they used a lesser number.
no, scenario 4 is our 8 million.
I understand that,
Yeah,
but if they used like 800 instead of 977.
oh, correct. Yes, this is all with our actual numbers.
With our accurate number.
And again, just so the public knows, this 977, it's a very average number. The 977 is a combination of both residential and non-residential, and those numbers will be different per user. This is just the average of all 977 billing units that we have. So you'll definitely see some fluctuation in that. But you can just tell by these numbers as they go up, our 8,000 definitely gets us in a fairly even increase over the years. We're not having to add to the reserve fund a tremendous amount. What we do add goes towards projects that we need to work on, and it allows it to grow and hopefully adjust at a fairly, as I said, an even rate.
But we don't know if they'll let us combine the 2 projects.
Correct,
So
we're
it's
still working on that. It's unusual, I guess it hasn't been
Bidding
done.
is one though, right?
Yes, and that's what one of the gentlemen that we were talking to today, he's gonna find that out. I mean, and I'm really gonna.
And it'd be a 4-year project instead of a 2-year project?
Yes, I think we would keep it, because it's phase 2 and 3 essentially, we'd keep it as the 4-year if we were allowed to. And then just have it be under a single loan, but they don't know, they couldn't tell us right then and there in the meeting today whether that's a thing we can actually do, because we're sort of already moving ahead.
We're already in the system.
Yeah, and maybe a scenario is we run and we combine phase 3 and 4 together. We had talked about maybe not doing phase 4 or putting phase 4 off and then budgeting for that in the reserve kind of area or other loans. So, I mean, it's a tough thing to work out. I've spent a lot of time with this, talking to Jill and Steve, and it's just, as I said, you can run all these different scenarios and they're so unknowns because it's over 6 or 7 or 8 years. It's hard to sort of figure out what direction to take because it's such a huge project.
Right.
But one where we can grow gradually increase is the most tolerable for, I think, water district users. Ones where we have to sort of pad reserves to be able to meet is just such a huge jump, that it's gonna be hard for a lot of people to handle that. You know, we're here and we're 400 and we're up to 658, 731, 8, you know, so you can see the difference. You know, we start to match a little bit as other loans come in
year
and we
10
start
and
to
year
pay.
20.
Yeah. Yeah,
You actually
it's
are
more
on the other side of it.
right. So, yeah, so to be continued on that discussion, like what do we do? And maybe it's something where we can find, you know, multiple grants for phase 2, but it's hard because we're in phase 2 right now.
And there's also not a lot of funding sources for projects like
No.
this.
Right. And there was also a 4A here, not to confuse things further, and Ian asked the right question. Can we proceed with phase 2 as we anticipate today, and then and phase 3 separately as well and combine the loans, right? Effectively, it would be the same thing. So there really wasn't an answer there either, but I think that's probably, if they'll allow it, the best solution out there, right? To allow us to proceed on the timeline we've already established and be able to do this.
I mean, we have everything ready, like Steve said, everything is going exactly to plan as he's planned out. It's just this dealing with how we will be able to pay for this over that time period. And combining definitely gets us the nicest looking numbers, even though those numbers are going up. That's just one of those things, it's to be expected, but we have a much lower curve for 8, and so I'll try really hard and push to do 8 if we can. They didn't have an answer because it's not usually done. I think because we're already looking at a 2-year project and we've put in the loan application for that. We would have to bond again, potentially, in order to encapsulate that, to be able to do it as 8. And we also have sort of the service lines. That's one of those wrenches that have just been thrown in terms of, does that 8 include service lines? But if we're only getting 50% and it's double the price to do it under that, they didn't.
Well, I don't think it's worth it to do
No,
it through them.
it doesn't seem, I mean, again, we can run some numbers and just see what it looks like, but it doesn't look great, especially when you have to add all that other complication. Jill asked point blank, if we touch the service line, when we do our distribution line project, do we have to replace? And they didn't have an answer. You asked Cindy, Jill, but she didn't give an answer to that.
No, she told me that I needed to ask my question about how that would be impacted, and one other thing to basically the people that write our permit, which is the drinking water division. So the people that do like the sanitary surveys and write the water permit, the head of that division right now is Matt. I forget his last name. Matthew. He used to be a water operator. Anyways, he replaced Dana like 3 years ago. So he's the one that I'm going to ask the question to, because the lead rule falls under drinking water and under regulatory. And it's interesting because when they first came out with the rule, they had us do the service line inventory and write a plan. And the way that we wrote our plan was to be reasonable. And we said, if there is favorable funding, in particular grant funding, to make this possible, that's when we'll try to move ahead with the service line through the town. If there's not, we're not so inclined to push it. So until there's some type of mandate with actual funding that covers the costs, it's very hard to feel excited about spending $750,000 on 75 services.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we'd hate to get into a position where we wouldn't, but we don't want to get into a position where we're starting to do things and we have to replace things, because then we have no plan to do that.
If they say when you do the town side, you have to replace the customer side and it's up to you to figure out how to recoup the money, then it does precipitate maybe it does make spending twice as much to end up with the same amount of a loan, fine. It's just, it's putting the cost of a customer service line on the next 40 years of ratepayers.
Right.
And albeit, it's also gonna reduce leakage because you're replacing your oldest lines. And I don't know, there's so many different facets to it.
Yeah. This is, I'll just show you quickly, this is the form that the state uses. And they even, in the call today, they even praised us, knowing that Steve, Jill and I are actually at the same level as them using this form now to run the formulas, which seems to bode well. So essentially this is the state's MHI, 81. Bristol itself is at 91. But we have a census designated place, which is essentially our water system. And our water system MHI is 71. So we're below state. So there's our below state right here. And this is our 5 scenarios that you pick from as you start to put in your numbers. You can be below the state, and your user rate can be below the 1%, which is right here. So you want your user rate to be below that. And if it's below that, you stay at 30 and you get your 2% admin fee. So that's what happened with Pine. Because when we put these numbers in, we just didn't have enough debt in the project to be able to qualify. So now when we're looking, so essentially we're putting in, it was 977 on the farms, it's 970, or it's a little bit of change there. So we've got our residential units and we've got our non-residential units equaling our 970. This is what it's estimated with a 6% increase in 2028, what our overheads will be for our water district. This is gonna be our existing debt, which essentially it's our 3 bonds that we have now, including Pine. If we leave our annual reserve fund at 50,000, we're doing 4 million. This is what you start with. So you start at 30, it's always a 0% interest, but then they have that admin fee, and then this is your forgiveness. So you start to play with these, and you want this number here to match this number here. So already, we're only hitting scenario 1. We are below the state, and we are below the 1%, so we stay exactly as is. And our total payment, this is our admin payment, 80,000. That's our 178. So
What's you say the below the 713.72, what's supposed to be below that?
this number right here. Not supposed to be, that's where we're at.
That's what we're at.
So if scenario 2 is if you are below the state and you're below the 1%, this is what you stay at. What we want is scenario 2. We want to be below the state, but we want to be above the 1%. And so we have to get to that number. So this is where you start to increase. And and this is what you're not supposed to do, kind of, but I mean, this is what we have control over. We don't really have control over this. We don't have control over this, but we do have control over this.
Yeah.
And so it starts to change, but you're at a pretty high amount, before you get up to that. And then once you, okay, so we're gonna put in 200, then you change this. So it's a 40-year, okay? And then you knock off your percentage. So now we're below. So now really we're at a 1.5% maybe. No, so then that's how you get that number. So the numbers I ran before on that sheet is like me playing around with this, like, what do we get? And then so even at adding quadrupling or more our reserve, we still don't even get rid of the admin fee. So that's why when you're looking at this and you're putting in the 8 million, that's how you start to get these numbers down. Or these numbers change. And so, if it was our 695, or let's say 690, and then we did 5 as this, then it starts to change a lot. So even at our 50,000, and this is what we were sort of running with before, until I thought we really need to change this, just because we don't know if this is what they're gonna use. And so you can see when we're doing it, let's see where we're at, oops, sorry, here. So we take it back to 40 and we take it back to 2. So you can see, we're above, right? So then you start to change these to sort of get those 2 numbers to match, great. We take that down, great, we're still, okay, so can we do 50%? No, so now can we do 30% forgiveness? Yeah, we're getting closer, so that's how it works. So the big thing is like figuring out what they're gonna use. And I think until we know that from them and they say, this is what we're gonna use, I think we should use what our billing units are to be absolutely the safest we can possibly be.
So the two things we need from them is how they're gonna calculate the residential units
Or what, yeah, what they're gonna use.
and
Yeah.
if we can put the loan amount together to get the 8 million.
Yes,
Because the only thing then that we have control over, depending on what they say about those two, are the reserve
Yes.
contribution.
and I know that, you know, if you put that scenario 1 in, as you add it into our capital improvement plan, our reserve funds are flush, it's great, but they're way above what we need to be, even with, you know, a $500,000 or a $750,000 project over the next 10 or 11 years, we're still so far above in our reserve, we don't need to do that, and we're putting our rates up to
Right,
accommodate that,
right.
so we really wanna have our reserve what we think we need.
Right, if we can.
Yes. So, I just want people to see that's what we're using, and we didn't have that for Pine, if we did, it would be a different story.
No, we wouldn't have qualified.
You're right, we wouldn't
But we
have.
would've known.
That's right, we
You
would
would've
have known.
known.
We would have
Yes.
known.
Can we,
Well, and maybe we would have bundled things earlier.
Correct, or made a larger project. Do we start off with an $8 million project? And we do phase 1 and 2 together, it's just, yeah.
can we use, when you said we're gonna set aside for the capital reserve and they're not really cool about that, can we say that's going to pay our half of these forgiveness of the customer line?
I don't think we wanna go through the state with that, because it's gonna cost twice as much, it's gonna
No,
be
we're
way more
not gonna go
paperwork.
through that, but, cause
Oh, I
when they
see.
say,
It just
wait
means
a
the
minute,
justification for
the
why
justification,
we're-
why are you guys putting the
Right.
money in capital reserve?
Right.
It's to
Yeah.
do our curb lines.
Right.
Yes, you could add a line item in your capital reserve fund for service line replacement.
Yeah, it could be a project.
But
Yeah,
why
that's-
itself?
That's one way to do it.
And then maybe to the 70 odd users, could we, I don't know, then we have to.
I mean, we also have to be really, I mean, trying to manipulate these this close is scary. One slip up and we're in Pine Street.
But for a lot more money.
Yeah.
After we get it put in, they'll say, oh, you didn't qualify.
Only 8 million instead of 800,000, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, so it's, err on the side of caution is my only suggestion from my end. I know they're big ugly numbers, but.
I mean, that's an interesting idea, Joel, in terms of you add it as a project to your reserve fund, so that's where you capture the money for that. Is part of the reserve,
When they ask you,
part
you
of the
can't,
rates.
Then we
can't
could
build
do
your
it as
capital.
loans.
That's right,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, so we do have
Just as I
a little bit of control over that. Don't necessarily have to use revolving loan, but then, I mean, it would add some complication depending on what kind of payment we're expecting. I mean, you could do it as 0% help for a user. I mean, if you budgeted in the reserve fund and you knew that you were gonna spend a certain amount of money, you put that in, that's, the user is gonna pay that. And then when we put the line in, it's free to them, but they've already really paid because they're paying it as part of their payment.
I was trying to get
But
at.
everybody's paying.
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, no, you're right.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
don't
say, you
want
can't do that.
So we'd have to, right, you'd have to, yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, I was thinking, because
Yeah.
that way we'd say, we will pay 50% forgiveness of a loan, not forgiveness of a loan, we'll pay,
Yeah,
give you 50% to pay back 0%, and then we scoot over don't have to get an easement, because they're hiring their own contractor to come in and put their own line in.
Exactly.
yeah, that could make things easier.
And then the whole
And then
thing
they
would be
may,
cheaper.
crank the screws down on their contractor and said, well, instead of 10 or 20,000, could be 2,500.
Although then we have to collect all this money. We can add it to the whatever.
Good night,
See,
Jimmy.
Jimmy?
You can't take any more. Where are we at? 9:25, okay,
We're
so,
an hour
No, I
over
know.
what we're supposed to be.
no, are we?
It's 8:40.
No, that's right. Well, I can go through this was just the capital improvement plan, and again,
Yeah,
sort of
that's
looking at.
8:25,
Yeah,
so
no, I
we're
know.
more than an hour.
I talk a lot,
Well, it's,
It's
It's good, it's
It's very- it's
complex
com-
and
Yeah, it is.
it's
It
good
is.
stuff.
We'll talk about
You
this.
could have probably got to the
I
point a
have a
little
headache.
quicker,
No, I have a headache too,
It's like,
believe
oh
me.
my God.
but
Just
and
so
we
many
need to-
numbers.
we need to understand it, that's the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to the capital improvement one, because a lot of that is based on the findings that we're trying to find out now, to
Right.
sort of determine what those
Right.
reserve funds look like.
They need
And
to
then-
give you some answers.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah,
using
you're
for the
kind of
base number?
In
Yes.
limbo.
How many people
Yeah.
have a sink to turn it on?
No, I know.
And how many pay the bill?
I don't understand why they don't know that number.
I'm not sure, talking to Amy last week, it was sort of, it's based on permits that we have, and those permits are out of date, and that,
They're always
various,
gonna be out of
various
date.
other things, so,
So
yeah.
basically, they don't know. They really
No,
don't. They're gonna,
At
they're
least
gonna
Amy,
pull it out of
Amy,
their butt.
Amy is unsure. at the moment.
KT
They're,
used
they
to
are, they're
be-
gonna pull it out of their butt.
When we had our own system over there, it was 42 connections and 42, there's a shut off under each trailer, or out beside each
Yeah,
trailer.
there still is,
There still is.
but
Meter
The
pit.
park does that now.
Yeah,
They build each one.
yeah, we need to, it's just an ongoing discussion to try to figure out what they're gonna use.
Okay.
alright, so is that the capital improvement plan or?
Yeah,
review and
we'll
update?
talk about that next week.
Alright, other updates or issues?
I think you heard all of them.
Okay, regular business, review and approval of past meeting minutes, and I see there was a stack.
And I
of-
make a motion, we approve all of them with my changes, and Ian's gonna have to fill in some stuff.
Yeah.
But I do wanna ask you, did
Second.
Val leave her, like, she usually kept notes, on her agenda, so, because there was some there that, we went into executive session, but we didn't know when we came out and all that, so
I know,
that's, I said, you're gonna have to fix this.
yeah, that's all right.
Alright, so we have a motion and a second to accept all the
Meeting minutes.
meeting minutes with the corrections.
Yeah,
that-
Michelle's corrections.
All the
Further
ones that
discussion?
all the ones she approved, not all of the minutes, but
All the ones that were on
Yeah.
the list.
Yes.
Alright, all those in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
opposed nay, motion carried, authorized warrants and any liquor or tobacco licenses.
The warrant
Liquor,
is, is
tobacco.
that what the warrant is?
No. 70,
$76,591.34.
And no liquor licenses.
alright, select board roundtable. Jessica,
Nothing.
I'm not gonna call you Ian.
I was out of town actually, so.
Michelle,
No.
Joel,
Oh, I have 3 things, but it can wait till next month. We're late.
Are they gonna take long?
Well, I had somebody suggested the other day, because they saw at our meeting last month that we were planting some more trees, and they commented about 30 going down, or somebody going down Elm Street and all that. Chris commented about, could we, I love it, the program that we're gonna do all these trees in the village, the old village, was, and they suggested maybe we should have, part of that is stump grinding.
Is some what?
Stump grinding.
Oh, stump grinding.
Not pulling them, because I said, well, I think some are gonna get pulled when the water line goes by. I don't know, but I said, that's a good suggestion, I'll bring it up. Well, maybe our Eric's tree line could be stump grinding, cause we're getting so many planted now.
Well, his is for tree trimming anyway,
tree trimming, tree removal.
tree removal.
Yeah, right, tree removal, so that's just a thought. And then Split Rock, I had a gentleman that owns across the river, says that, wanna make sure that he doesn't own where that van is gonna be parked, the food truck. 'Cause
Oh,
he
he's gonna
owns-
be parking the parking spot, parking
He
lot.
says he said there's a map here at the town offices. There's a map that shows where his property line goes over to a rock over there and a pipe. And I told him I'll get up there and look, and I haven't been up there, but I will before the
So
weekend.
he doesn't want the van parked on his property?
Not on his property, he said, I understand it's not on, I can't do
And
anything.
so the parking there is on his property as well.
Yeah, the parking on it,
He actually sold land to the state. for
right,
a
he told me that.
temporary bridge.
Yeah. And then the last thing quickly is, could the residents on Pine Street, when they gravelled the road, I spoke to Eric about that last year, this is the village and I think it should be topsoil. They said, if they got us the topsoil, we put it down. And I said,
What are we
well,
talking about?
Yeah,
Pine Street Road?
Pine
They
Street
use,
got-
road gravel on the edges of the road, so it wouldn't be soft.
for the, you know,
And,
clean up.
Oh.
I mean, that's what they did on Elm Street when they repaved ours, and after a couple of years, it all shakes out fine.
Well, they didn't grind yours though, they only repaved the road. See, ours, and they widened the road. They ground the whole thing and it's all gravel. And then they only paved so many feet, and then they went around with a foot gravel, and I didn't think it was back then, and I still don't. If they said, could we get the topsoil, I said, go see Eric, he might have some. So, that's all I have, figured.
Alright, and I actually have something. And it has to be dealt with, well, it should be, if we're gonna deal with it, it should be dealt with tonight. Four Hills asked whether they could plant corn on the property on the corner of Hewitt Road. And I told them we had so much money, we were gonna be breaking ground momentarily and probably not, no.
Oh, you mean the piece we bought?
Yeah, they just wanna know if they can plant corn there this year. And I didn't,
We
I
had to
said,
take it out of the farm program, so.
yeah, well, I told them I would ask because I didn't see us doing anything
Have at it.
there this season.
yeah,
I would ask now,
we have water.
is it possible, yeah, we have plenty of water. Is, when they do turn it back over to us, is they just reseed it to,
But why
We're
bother?
gonna dig the whole thing up
Right.
anyway.
you're not gonna take up 4.5 acres, Peter.
You're gonna
Okay.
have the majority of it.
You heard what I said.
When you
Like
regrade,
it back to grass.
when you regrade, you're gonna have the majority of that dug up.
Yeah, I'm assuming between the septic and all that.
Road.
So is that an agreement to let them plant?
Yeah, I'm
Sounds
fine with
fine
them
to me.
planting.
Yeah, I like corn.
Probably won't be able to
Won't be something you can eat.
they won't be able to grow grass on it for 2-3 years, cause they'll probably put the,
No,
no, they
no,
don't
they
put,
don't use that anymore.
they don't? Okay.
Oh no, interim administrators report.
I've mainly just been working on water. Water everywhere.
Okay, other business.
Please watch the interviews. I'm trying to set an interview up
I
for
watched
multiple for Friday. I'm forcing you to watch them and I'm forcing you to come to an interview.
What
On
time are you
Friday?
thinking on
On
I'm
Friday?
out of town on Friday.
Uh,
You guys handle it.
11 AM, maybe 1, and then maybe 1 in the afternoon.
So we
I'll
have
be
three
flying
now?
to China
You're gonna be in
On
town.
Friday,
for 30 hours on Friday.
so you can join via Zoom on the plane? Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
right.
So not this Friday is what I'm hearing. Since 2 of you won't be here.
Yeah, not if you want me to be there, but the time change, so it's a 12-hour time change. So like if you're doing it at 11 AM, it's 11 PM my time, 1 PM your time's 1 AM my time. So those won't work for me. So you guys should just
When are you
do
back
the
from China?
July 1st.
Oh,
So
Yeah, we know.
you should, yeah, you
The
guys should
internet
just,
over there, Able Mountain is terrible. I might be able to get on Zoom,
you guys should just
When are
do
you
it.
back?
not until Sunday night, Sunday
Oh,
afternoon.
He's
so.
just
All
gonna
right, so
keep it.
Just
maybe
go
punt it-
next week.
punt it to
Taking
next
it
Friday.
Friday.
But I did watch the videos though.
Can you do it earlier? Like, could you do it Thursday?
I'm just
I'm
trying to think if
working.
it's, so we can have this space and it's private, just because it's closed on Friday.
Yeah, and
We'll have
this
one person in
week I
person,
can't do anything.
yeah.
This week is crazy.
Okay,
You
so
do the-
potentially
Could
next,
you do the one at 9 o'clock in the morning? So
Mhm.
you wouldn't be close to late over in
Yeah,
Japan.
so you'd have to do it like 8 or 9 or, you know, something early,
okay,
yeah,
alright, I'll have to look at it, I'll reach out to you.
yeah. But if not, I
Can you
trust,
do
I trust
8 or
your
9 in the
judgment.
morning?
I trust you guys.
I mean, I'll give you feedback
I
I
based
trust
on.
the committee.
Huh?
Now it's
Make
3
it
of us
work.
making the
What's that,
decision.
Peter?
So I'll make it work, just to get rid of Ian.
I mean, someone's gotta talk less.
Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. I think you're doing a fine job. It's nothing I'd want.
Me either. Okay,
Yeah, it's good to know. Nothing else correspondence or anything like that?
Okay, executive session?
no.
Take
Motion.
note.
What are you gonna do about the next meeting?
We already decided we're doing it Tuesday.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Daisy-
DRB meeting is here.
Daisy already had one scheduled, it wasn't, I couldn't find it.
This is on the
calendar.
26th,
Yeah.
cross that out,
And
okay.
apparently there's an equity one on the Wednesday. Yeah, we got a lot of meetings going on. Thank you, Sharon, for reminding me, it was on my list. I'm so tired, I'd forgotten about
What about Thursday? Much as I don't wanna do a Thursday.
I mean, you could still do it on the Monday.
I know.
I don't wanna speak for, yeah, you guys, that's your day off too.
Doesn't matter, it'll be Tuesday morning for me, so it doesn't mean
Just,
anything,
yeah.
because I'll be in the future.
Well,
That's
we
right.
could
you're
just
gonna
do
be in
it
the future.
Tuesday, June 3rd,
She's going to New York City, so.
and then you'd have two back-to-back.
That's fine. Can I do that?
Or Monday, June 2nd, I should say,
So
and then you'd have them back-to-back, you know,
Yeah.
the second
Okay.
and then the following.
All right, Monday,
Can we
June
do-
2nd?
It won't be in May, but
it's
it'll,
three in June. That's fine.
does that work for you guys?
I don't know, I have a pretty tight schedule.
June 2nd, or June, yeah, June 2nd, right?
So I will be joining you with coffee, because it will be 7 AM my time.
Like 7 AM?
7 AM on Tuesday morning.
It'd be better with
So how many,
wine.
how long are you over there?
More time.
China?
Yeah, China, I'll be there for 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Vacation or
Working from home?
Work. I'm actually teaching a class to government officials who've gone back to get their master's degree, and I'm going to teach them a class about how to collect and use citizen feedback when they make policy. And I'm gonna talk to them about Vermont town meeting. Yeah, so they might not, listen to anything I have to say, but it's worth a try.
So next meeting is June
Second.
2nd. Now I'd entertain a motion to.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll just repeat my motion.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
I gotta go to the Jets.
Aye.
For the